The FBI has arrested Brandon Straka, founder of the Walk Away campaign, for his involvement in the Capitol riots. And they're alleging some pretty serious stuff, like he was telling people to do things like go inside or take a cop's shield. And there's even a tweet I remember seeing myself where Brandon said he tweeted that patriots at the Capitol hold the period line. I saw him tweet that. Well, I didn't know exactly what it was about, but here we go. FBI has made the arrest. We got a bunch of crazy stories, so we'll go through this. But the craziest thing about it, he was turned in by a relative, according to the FBI affidavit. The witness who handed over the evidence claims to be a relative of Brandon Straka. Welcome, my friends, to the great culture revolution here in the United States, where kids are turning in their parents. We got a couple stories about that. We'll rehash just a little bit. And there's some nuance in these stories. We've also got a story out of Canada. They've apparently voted to label the Proud Boys a terrorist entity. Whether or not that actually means anything is yet to be determined. I know a lot of people think it's legit, like it's done. It's not. They're calling on the government to make it official. So we'll see how that plays out. But I got to tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if here in the U.S. we see something similar. So, there's already, with Democrat control of the House and now essential control of the Senate, I wouldn't be surprised if they play that same game. Now, in less important news, the articles of impeachment have been delivered to the Senate, and there's going to be a trial. And it's kind of funny that we've actually have this one slated for later, like it's not our lead story, because it's just, I got to be honest, it's kind of silly. And we have another big story too. We have a lot tonight, actually. 100 Politico staffers have written a letter outraged that Ben Shapiro wrote an op-ed. This is how crazy things are getting. So I'll leave the intro at that because we got a ton of stuff. And joining us tonight is Brad Polumbo. Would you like to introduce yourself, Brad?
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be with you.
And who are you? What do you do?
So I'm a conservative journalist, Washington Examiner columnist, and podcast host, just like yourself.
Right on. So we'll have your opinions, of course. Luke is here.
Oh, howdy. We had a fun weekend. We shot a melon that jumped up 6 feet in the air. That was pretty cool.
Because you yours in the scar.
Well, we shouldn't go into too much details about exactly what we were doing, but we had a lot of fun here. We finally got the shirts back up personally that were banned, that I was wearing on this show, that were banned during the show. They're back up on the bestpoliticalshirts.com. And it was a great weekend. We finally got the store back up, and we're doing great. And
and we also finally got the I Am a Gorilla t-shirt approved by YouTube. Yes. So now it's pinned and official. And I haven't followed up yet. I know Teespring's been trying to get a hold of me, but I'm seeing a lot of people. And for those that aren't familiar, a lot of people are posting photos of the misprinted I Am a Gorilla shirts where his hands are white and his face is darkened. And okay, well, Teespring assured me that won't happen again. So I guess we should be good. If you want to buy the I Am a Gorilla t-shirt, it should be normal this time. So hopefully, we got Ian chilling. He's wearing glasses.
What up, everybody? Coming at you.
Who are you?
I'm Ian Crossland.
No intro.
You're gonna make me cuss.
Yeah.
No,
and of course, we got Sour Patch Lids pressing all the buttons.
Yes, I push all the buttons in the corners.
I am proud to say today we have a sponsor. And again, look, guys, I'm really, really grateful whenever we do get sponsors because we don't have that many. Okay, these are trying times. And I saw someone already in the chat earlier said that a bunch of the people they follow and listen to have been purged. Yup. Keep track, because what they're doing is they've always done this. They go for the smaller accounts first because they make less noise and they pick them off one at a time. If they ban a big channel, it'll be too noisy. So they got to be very careful about how they do this. That being said, I'm eternally grateful because today's sponsor is Virtual Shield. Check out surfinginternetsafe.com and you can get 50% off for life for their virtual private network service. This is very, very simple. It's a program that helps make you anonymous on the internet, protects your private data from third-party companies that want to sell your stuff. It protects your information from potentially from the government. I don't want to act like the government are weak when it comes to cybersecurity, but it really, really does help. So again, go to surfinginternetsafe.com. Stay home, stay protected, 50% off. And they say that their VPN service is compatible with all devices and allows you to browse the web safely, securely, and anonymously using their global network of servers and private IPs. They let you browse the web completely anonymously so the big name internet service providers and other third parties will not be able to monitor and sell your internet activity. When using Virtual Shield, your traffic is routed through secure and encrypted servers. This means that any restrictions, censorship blocks on your internet are bypassed. Enjoy browsing on a fast, reliable, secure, and always available network. And they say it is completely free for the first 30 days. So that's actually really cool. I'll just give you one last little tidbit because that's how I explain it to people. When you're surfing the web, you've got your front door open, and like you can walk up. It's kind of convenient. You walk up, the door's right open, right? That kind of doesn't make sense. That you should have some security in certain circumstances. I know maybe it's the middle of the day, you open your door, you get some fresh air, it makes sense. But it makes sense to lock your windows and doors at night. Virtual Shield is a VPN which provides you a basic level of security, and I'm eternally grateful for their sponsorship of the show. So make sure you check out the link in the description below, surfinginternetsafe.com, and you'll get 50% off. So many thanks. And don't forget to go to timcastirl.com, become a member to help support the show directly, so that in the event that we eventually get purged, we will still exist in some form. And we actually have this really great post up right now. It's Alex Jones raiding Luke's RV and waking him up.
That's not what you think. All right, stop, you dirty-minded people.
It is. It's actually really, really calm. A lot of people who commented on it said it's really cool because it's just like Alex being normal and saying, "Hey, Luke, how you been?" And Luke being like, "Oh,
so
what's
confused, utterly confused."
Just woke
That must have been
up.
jarring.
No,
just waking up. It was dark.
There's a history there that hasn't been explained. I might do my own sponsor video on my own site explaining the history there, but
we also in this post have the lost episode, the one that YouTube banned. So it's available there for members. It's also on BitChute, just so you know. But we've made it convenient for all of you. So many thanks to everybody who's become members. We can also see that the I Am a Gorilla T-shirt is available now, finally integrated in YouTube, and you can get it. And hopefully, at this point, everybody's getting the corrected versions. And I guess we'll call the misprint one what it is, a misprint that we did not sanction or endorse. And if you got it, well, and congratulations. But let's just jump to the first story. Man, this is nuts. I was sitting on my couch and I saw a tweet. Brandon Straka, who's been on the show several times, has been arrested by the FBI. We have this local news outlet, KETV7 Omaha, says, Omaha FBI agents arrest founder of Walkaway campaign for actions during U.S. Capitol attack. They say Brandon Straka, 44, was arrested Monday by agents from the FBI Omaha field office. Straka faces charges of impeding a law enforcement officer during civil disorder, knowingly entering and remaining on restricted grounds without lawful authority, and or engaging in disorderly conduct within proximity to a restricted building to impede official functions, and engaging in disorderly conduct with intent to disturb a hearing before Congress. Court documents show that officials were tipped off about Straka posting a video near the Capitol entrance shouting, "Go, go." The video was later removed, and officials said they could not find any video or posts on his Twitter page relating to his actions at the Capitol. However, the FBI was sent multiple screenshots. These screenshots reportedly revealed that Straka made the following comments on Twitter, saying, quote, "Patriots at the Capitol, hold the line." Quote, "I arrived at the Capitol a few hours ago as patriots were storming from all sides. I was quite close to entering myself as police began tear gassing us from the door. I inhaled tear gas and got in my eyes. Patriots began exiting shortly after saying Congress had been cleared." He goes on to say he was confused. For 6 to 8 weeks, everybody on the right was saying 1776, and that if Congress moves forward, it will mean a revolution. So Congress moves forward, patriots storm the Capitol. Now everyone is virtue signaling their embarrassment that this happened. I think that quote right there is a really good example of what happens when you're in an echo chamber. As if anybody thought that going inside a building and physically standing there was going to change the government overnight. Just definitely not the case. But the more important points I'll make right here. They say, according to documents, one video showed an officer from the U.S. Capitol Police holding a protective shield. As individuals pushed past the officer toward the entrance of the U.S. Capitol, the officer held his shield up in the air. The report states, according to documents, Straka is heard shouting, "Take it away from him." And others in the crowd then yelled, "Take the shield." As several people in the crowd grabbed the officer's shield, Straka yelled, "Take it, take it." Officials learned that Straka was a self-described former liberal and the founder of the Walkaway campaign. Now, here's where it gets crazy. I've got here the FBI affidavit. They say the FBI received multiple tips referencing the video of Straka at the U.S. Capitol, including a tip from Witness 1. I interviewed Witness 1 on January 13th. Witness 1 stated she was a relative of Straka. Now, everything else we've heard for the most part, accusations were made, videos were sent. And I'll also point out this is probably why Facebook banned Walkaway and all of the people involved. See, I don't think any of us actually saw those videos unless you had been following Walkaway. I wasn't. So when I heard that they banned the entirety of Walkaway, I was like, whoa, that's nuts. Now, if they're saying he was posting these videos of himself storming the Capitol, it's not surprising at all. But I think the bigger issue here is, for one, we got the news. That's it. Founder of Walkaway arrested. Relative turned him in.
I mean, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So I don't know why anyone went near this mess at the Capitol. They were never going to accomplish anything. They were never going to stop the certification of the vote. I mean, that ship sailed a long time ago.
For a few hours they did.
Yeah, they delayed the inevitable at a big cost to them personally.
Yep.
So
I disagree. That shaman who believed he was an alien, he was definitely a threat to national security, and he became very close to being Speaker of the House. I mean, how can you argue against that?
Well,
it was
hold
an
on.
insurrection.
Wait.
Brandon.
He was standing in Mike Pence's place.
Yes.
For the president of the Senate. That legally means he was the president of the Senate, right? That's the idea, isn't it? By physically going in there and standing there, you hold the title.
That's the rules, right?
Well, is that what people thought was going to happen? But okay,
Yes.
look.
Sorry for interrupting you. Go ahead, finish your point.
But I was saying, like, it is disturbing to see people starting to turn in family members. It'd be one thing, right, if there was another story that you and I were talking about before we went live, right, where there's a threat of, like, imminent violence or terrorism.
Right.
But, like, just snitching on your family members, there's got to be some really extreme circumstances to justify anything close to that. And just posts that you saw from them on Twitter, I would never do that personally.
Well, we also have to understand we're in a political climate where it seems like the FBI has been absolutely activated. Previously, before, when it came to other issues, the FBI is kind of sitting around. But now, I mean, they're putting up bulletin boards. They're putting up wanted posters. They're putting up tip hotlines. It looks like they finally, got off of their buttocks and started being extremely proactive and very efficient at their job. When previously, with other cases like the Epstein case, they kind of didn't really do much.
And not just that case. Here's what bothers me.
No, trust me. There's a long history of the
listen.
FBI not doing their job correctly.
Anybody who actually committed crimes at the Capitol, they should be doing that, right? But where was that during the BLM riots this summer, right? They weren't tracking down every person that smashed a window.
No, Brad. Those were peaceful, mostly peaceful
And they
protests.
stopped COVID. And they fought COVID, according to scientific studies that were released and published by CNN News. Are you telling me CNN News is lying and you're cutting me down?
I'm telling you.
I'm going to have to speak louder, Tim. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just telling you though, when they tell you it's mostly peaceful with the burning background, with the building on fire, it might not actually be mostly peaceful.
This is a serious problem, man. I've had emails from people saying, like, Tim, you talk about the same thing over and over again, just different times, like same stuff, different day. We don't swear on the show. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm telling you it's happening. It's happening. What I won't do is be like, oh, I'm absolutely shocked by this double standard. The FBI arresting these insurrectionists. And what do we have? We have Antifa still riding now. Like, they've never stopped. They're still
crazy.
going. But look, I know you guys want to rag on the FBI and all that. But I got to point out the family thing, because you brought up that story of the kid and his dad, right? Mm-hmm. Let me tell you how insane and despicable things are getting. We have the story from the New York Times. Son tipped off FBI about his father, who is charged in Capitol riot. He says, I put my emotions behind me to do what I thought was right. And you know what he thought was right? On his Twitter account, his official link, on Twitter, you edit your profile and you can put a link.
Yeah.
It's his link to a GoFundMe. This
God.
morning, his GoFundMe was at like $90-something thousand. And I was just like, dude, it's one thing to rat your family out. Maybe you have to do it if there's a real threat. Maybe you have to.
Right.
It's true. It's not so simple. It's another thing to be like, guys, I turned my dad in. Here's my GoFundMe. I'm looking for $100,000. And wait, since then he's raised another about $25,000. So he increased the total goal to $200,000. He's calling it his college fund.
Oh,
Listen,
my God.
This guy reported his dad weeks ago because his dad was saying he was going to do something big. And I'm like, look, if your dad or your family member was Antifa and they were talking about doing something big, especially when you have stories of all these riots going on, and you turned him in, I get it. It sucks, okay? But then if you come out publicly and you're like, I'd like to do an interview with CNN and the New York Times and then publish a GoFundMe to make hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's horrible.
Wow, dude.
Well, you brought up a very important point, because it could have been a scenario where there was a present danger, and at that time, we don't know the interpersonal relationship. We don't know if there was abuse. We don't know any of this stuff. But at the same time, one thing we have to note here, the mainstream media, especially CNN, they're taking this case and they're running with it. They're running, till the cows come home, essentially exploiting this and loving it. And they're running with it as a headline story. And this is where he even wrote in his own description. He's like, I'm getting so much support after my CNN interview. I might not have a home to live in, but it seems like he's getting some
You can buy a
support
home
from-
now.
from some
That's the
people.
most
Exactly.
dysfunctional incentive structure, though. You're setting up with these like resist bucks. I mean, this is what they did with Claudia Conway, right?
Yeah.
That she was willing to drag her dad, her mom rather, on Twitter for working for the president. And so like the New York Times had a glowing profile of her, and they started constantly sharing her and promoting her and turning her into a TikTok star. And it's like, I don't think we should be incentivizing with money young people to do this kind of thing and sell out their family.
Unless you're a commie and you want the culture evolution, then you're
Yikes.
cheering and jumping up and down and clapping for it, happy.
But wait, I thought they didn't believe in incentivizing people with money.
That's the funny thing I said. You know, that's what I was saying earlier, that a lot of these people claim to be socialists or leftists, but when it comes down to it, they're the worst version of capitalists. Everything they complain about capitalism, like the raw exploitation for money, I'm like, what do you think it is you're doing when you literally sell your dad to the state for money? That's incredible. Look, if I had to report a family member, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be saddened. But more importantly, what if it was possible that he could have talked to his dad? What if when he heard his dad say crazy stuff, he was like, yo, Dad, sit down. Let me talk to you. Like, we need to have a family intervention about this. Because saying, I'm going to do something big, just you wait. What does that really mean?
It's crazy.
Is that when you're like, well, something big, time to call the feds and have him arrested?
Did he say it to the kid, or did he write it on Twitter?
Well, later, afterwards, he told the kid he would shoot him. So,
Okay.
but he reported his dad weeks ago. So the dad told his kid that he was at the Capitol, and if he snitched on him, he would do what traitors deserve, and traitors get shot.
Oh, well,
or
this
whatever.
this guy sounds unstable.
Totally,
I think
totally.
the kid's in the right here.
Well, so his kid reported him weeks ago. All right. And that's what I was saying. A lot of people are immediately jumping the gun saying, oh, don't rat on your family. That's messed up. And I'm like, I don't know if your dad's saying like,
No, that's
you
fine.
know, I'm gonna
It's the
shoot-
fundraising part that's
Right,
a little
right,
questionable.
right.
Is he so the kid's like homeless now? Did he lose his last parent?
No, I don't think so.
Well, he wrote in his
I
description.
might be kicked out of my house due to my
that's-
involvement.
Yeah.
I might be.
That's
Give me
fundraising.
money.
Dude, I got sympathy for that guy, that kid, because that's a weird. If your dad threatens to shoot you and goes and does some illegal act,
Oh, absolutely.
and you have to distance yourself from your family when you're younger than 18, is he? I would
I don't know.
imagine.
Well, it could go either
maybe.
way. We don't know
His
what
future could
happened.
be shattered.
We don't know what happened personally between these two individuals and their personal relationship. It could be that he was making an offhanded joke and wasn't that serious about it. It could be that he could be an abusing father that beat his children and literally threatened more harm on them.
Yeah.
So we don't know exactly
Look,
what
look,
happened
look.
there. But again,
it's the fundraising. Check this out. On his GoFundMe, he keeps saying like, I'm raising. Well, let me see. What,
Wow.
He goes, I'm raising the goal to 100,000 from requests, and it's staying at 100,000. Thank you, everyone, for your messages. They all have been read and cherished. Thank you. People have requested again that I move the goalpost once more. I'm sorry about saying it would stay, but you guys have been persistent, so I gotta ask for more money.
I guess I
Wait,
gotta
there's-
take more money.
There's one more. I moved the goalpost. Once more people have been requesting. It's just, listen, it's not me asking for the money and increasing the goal. It's that people keep saying, dude, we want to give you money. You don't need to increase the goal to make money. If your goal is $5,000, people can still keep donating. Increasing the goal has the purpose of making people think you haven't reached your goal yet, so they're more likely to donate. I doubt. Well, no, look, there probably are people saying like, hey, increase it, right? And he's like, I guess.
Okay, but just from a raw perspective, you kind of have to respect the hustle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I guess
he's a
so.
capitalist.
And I'll be completely honest. The money he's taking, this is a really funny question when it comes to money. People are like, you're getting paid by, Soros or like the Koch brothers or whatever. And I'm kind of like, who would you rather have the money? The Koch brothers or me? Like, isn't it a good thing that these organizations lose money giving it away to other people? They lose that power.
Yeah, we don't have
Wait,
this
you're
kind
getting
of.
paid by the Koch brothers?
No. The
Oh,
point I'm
okay,
making
good.
is, I don't know what this
Scared
dude's
me there.
politics are. He's probably not particularly political, but he's now taken 125 grand from, establishment and tribalist lefties. So it's like, I guess better he has the money and spends it on whatever he wants to than a bunch of, crazy people.
Like it's better than Mitch McConnell taking $150,000 from the NRA, probably, because it's like grassroots at least.
Wait, what?
Like we're talking about people donating money and receiving money, like
I'm
these
saying-
politicians that are getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from corporations. We don't sit here and talk and complain about each of those, but it's probably way worse than a kid going on
Oh, right,
GoFundMe
right.
and taking like a
What I'm saying is this kid's probably going to like buy a car and then just like go drive around and do nothing with
buy
it.
crypto.
But the people who
should
have
buy
the
some
money in the first
Bitcoin.
place
Yeah.
are going to be like promoting fringe political causes and stuff. So it's like, I guess if
guess-
he takes the money and he just like, goes to school with it, I guess he's influencing one person. He's paying them to influence him instead of paying to influence others. You know what I mean?
But it does incentivize more of this.
Right. That's the main issue. That's why.
Right.
It's bad.
If he gets it, then a bunch of other kids out there whose parents maybe are not that crazy are going to see the money, and maybe the next one. I mean, I'll give this guy the full benefit of the doubt. Maybe his dad was crazy. Maybe he had to do this, right? But there's probably some kids out there who look at that and are like, I want to get a slice of that, and maybe they will not be telling the truth when they do it.
Yo, the chick who turned in her mom. Hold on. Wait, is this the same one? Oh, no.
There's
this is
many of them. That's the thing. This didn't just happen once. It happened a couple times, and as you said, you can only imagine if your dad says eat your vegetables, your kid's gonna look back at them like, I could call the FBI on your buttocks right now, fool.
The Nazis and the communists, the Russian communists, Soviets would be like, turn them in, do the right thing, or maybe or through threat of force, and now they're doing it through bribery. Well, it's this new world order.
Check it out. The young woman who turned her mother in has raised $73,391 of her now $150,000 goal, and of course she's going pay for college.
Well, to be fair, Biden's going to take a lot of that money with his new tax plan.
Oh, definitely.
And then college. I mean,
well, they're going to get their student loans all canceled anyway.
I'm going to tell you my hard prediction. I think these two people are going to go to jail, or
the kids.
Yeah. Maybe not jail. Maybe it's a little harsh. I think because what people don't realize, I've heard this story a lot. When people get an internet windfall and they think the money is free and they don't pay taxes on it, and the IRS comes a knocking and they end up owing the IRS a ton of money. So this dude who's getting all of this money for college could be argued that by putting that. So I'm not a tax lawyer, but what I've been advised is, if you want to give someone a gift, then there can be no consideration. Consideration being a contractual term, a legal term. So if I said like, here you are, Luke, 1 gorilla for free, and you can do whatever you want with it, then that's a gift. But if I say this gorilla is 4X, it's no longer a gift. It depends, though. You could argue that paying someone's medical bills or college could constitute a gift. But we saw this. I don't know if you guys remember when Occupy organized that big debt payoff where they were like buying people's medical debt. People were getting tax bills because of it. Mm-hmm. Because paying off someone's debt is giving them money. And then depending on what the money was for, if there was consideration involved, like, I'm going to give you money, but it can only be used for this, then the person has to pay taxes on it. A gift can have no strings attached.
Well, right now with COVID, people are getting tax bills for their stimulus checks and their expanded unemployment benefits.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy that unemployment is a tax. You pay unemployment tax to cover the unemployment, then they pay it out to you, but then they tax it.
Yeah.
So it's already a tax.
Why and to spend it, you pay sales tax. To earn it, you pay income tax. To just keep your property, you pay property tax. I mean, it's multiplied 1 million times over.
At the gun store we went to, on the receipt, when it said taxes, it said taxation is theft.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah, so you got to check your receipt.
You'd love to see it.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's local businesses that are hit either way. I mean, you brought up an important point. I mean, they tax there's so many aspects of life are taxed. You receive money, you get taxed. You spend money, you get taxed. And then you got to pay taxes on top of those taxes, on top of other taxes. It's just
But hold on. This is why what a lot of these lefties don't understand is that lowering the tax rate can actually increase tax revenue.
Oh, yeah.
Because if the dollar, if I have $1 and we spread it around this table, by the time the dollar is done being traded, the government has all of it. But if you raise the taxes to a point where I can't even afford to spend it, then I just hold the dollar.
Well, and
also
also
has none of it.
High taxes discourage economic activity, right? If the top rate is 90%, like AOC's dream, right? People aren't going to work to earn those extra dollars once they hit that bracket, and then there's less overall revenue from that too.
I disagree. You're right, but they just do clever. It's a rich people's game. Once they get to that point, they just buy other things that don't get taxed.
They just open up a charity, and that's one of the biggest scams out there. Just like Bill Gates, who said he's going to give all of his money away to charity, and then tripled his wealth somehow.
And those Panama Papers didn't get enough attention. Did you guys pay attention to those when they dropped the papers?
Oh yeah, didn't the person who leaked it die or something?
Oh my God, I don't know. But all these really wealthy people have bank accounts in Panama,
celebrities
or thereabouts. I know one of Putin's best friends has tons of money there. He's like the musician guy. I mean, that's like the elephant in the room with this economy.
It's rich people have the means and the ability and the legal power, and they get away with it.
Are you like a tax lawyer?
No.
You're not a lawyer, but
no, but I report on economics and write about economics, and that's been one of the most interesting things about COVID and the big response. Like the Federal Reserve printed trillions of dollars essentially a lot of it went to big corporations. A lot of the Paycheck Protection Program, which was supposed to help small businesses, went to big corporations. This happens all the time with government. This is why the swamp is actually one of the truest things Trump ever said.
Yep.
Right? In Washington, even the progressive legislators get called by all the big companies every day and get tons of money from them and make sure that the big bill doesn't hurt their bottom line. It's all like that.
There's a study where they say something like public opinion has zero impact on public policy. And the opinions of major corporations and the wealthy impacts almost exclusively. Makes sense. Why is a politician going to be worried about? Well, I think the internet has changed things though, because it used to be that you needed the money to run the ads. Now it's the Twitter game. It's, AOC goes on Twitter and she starts ranting about the Republicans and like how they're evil and stuff like that, and then she gets more and more followers, and people love to hate. They love to be angry. They want to feel their anger is justified.
Well, that's the impulse that gathers your attention the most. So there have been many clinical studies, and if you could make someone fearful and scared, those are the incentives to make people click more than anything else out there in the internet. And a lot of these news companies, a lot of these big tech companies know this, and they need to keep people on their platforms. They need to keep people, engaged as much as they can. So they hit this fear. What is it? Fight or flight instincts all the time, and our emotional systems are hyperbolically just going insane after being induced into so much of this kind of casino gamified informational warfare that's blasted in your face.
Well, let's jump into the next story then, because this is perfect. We have this from globalnews.ca. MPs unanimously agree to urge feds to designate Proud Boys a terrorist entity. So I see a lot of tweets from people saying like Canada just declared the Proud Boys were terrorists. Well, politically, the MPs kind of did, but there's been no official declaration from their federal government. They say, members of Canada's parliament have agreed to call on the federal Liberal government to formally designate the Proud Boys a terrorist entity. The motion, introduced by NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, passed with unanimous consent in the House of Commons on Monday. The motion calls upon the government to use all available tools to address the proliferation of white supremacists and hate groups, starting with the immediate designating the Proud Boys as a terrorist entity. The NDP has for weeks been calling on Trudeau and the Liberals to ban the Proud Boys and designate the group a terrorist organization. The move comes after thousands of supporters of President Trump stormed the Capitol. Yeah, we get it. Members of the Proud Boys were reportedly present during the riot. Isn't Joe Biggs a Proud Boy?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know much.
I think he is, but he got arrested. He got arrested, so they were there. And Enrique Tarrio was supposed to be there, but he got arrested and they kicked him out of D.C. The federal government said it is considering designating the group as a terrorist entity. As Minister Blair has said, we strongly denounce ideologically motivated extremists, including groups like the Proud Boys, white supremacists, anti-Semitics, Islamophobic, and misogynist groups. Mary Liz Power, a spokesperson for public safety, Minister Bill Blair told the Global News earlier this month, intolerance and hate have no place in our society. Think about what this means. How often do we see the Proud Boys go around and actually smash things up and destroy things and cause violence?
Not really.
It happens sometimes. Rarely, though. How often do we see it from Antifa? Designated
it just happened
Antifa.
last night in Portland.
Yes. It just happened last night.
Tacoma. Yeah. Tacoma, Washington.
Yep. Smashing up windows. And just when Joe Biden got inaugurated, they smashed up the Democrat headquarters, windows and everything, and destroyed it. And where's the FBI? I know in Canada, this is Canada we're talking about with the Proud Boys, but let's just talk about Antifa in general, because Antifa operates in Canada. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're in the Pacific Northwest, so they go up and down all the time.
Do the Proud Boys even operate in Canada? I don't even know if they had have a branch there personally, to be honest with you.
It's remarkable. They're trying to claim...
Like, what did they do in Canada? Like,
I think the goal is they're desperately trying to redefine what white supremacy means, and I think they've succeeded. There's no point in calling out the double standard. Okay, it's like all the time the conservatives are like, there's a double standard. It's obvious. Yeah, dude, no duh. The left knows this. They don't care. And you saying something does literally nothing because they're not going to stop. Now they're at the point where they've redefined white supremacy. White supremacy is totally redefined in media. And now, because they've redefined it, they can now claim the Proud Boys are white supremacists, even though their chair is literally not white.
From what I understand about the Proud Boys, there's a lot of things not to like about the group, but racism and white supremacy is not one of them. Yeah. Right? But the real concern, too, is that when they're designating things terrorist groups, that's a precursor to infringing civil liberties. That's a justification for surveillance, for limiting speech. And that is something you got to watch against, because that's how authoritarianism creeps in. They've actually started to do something similar in the U.S. here after the Capitol attack. Tulsi Gabbard has come out and warned against this. Don't let them use the Capitol attack as an excuse to expand the national security state and crack down on civil liberties.
To be fair, I think Rashida Tlaib did as well.
She did.
And
I'm a huge critic of her, but I was like, okay, Rashida, go off, queen.
Yes. Right on. I agree 100%.
I won't say that very often, but
they need to magnify the threat to, of course, get what they want, and that's more power, more authority for them. And, you know, if the Proud Boys did commit terrorism, if there was a terrorist attack done by the Proud Boys, yeah, label them a terrorist organization. But can you even tell me an act or a single day where the Proud Boys did anything in Canada that justifies this?
Well, not so much Canada, but there was that one time where that guy was walking out the street and he got shot. Oh, wait, that was Antifa who shot and killed the Trump supporter. Sorry.
Yes.
There was the time the Proud Boy
used the bike lock against someone's
got whacked
head, right?
with a retractable baton. I guess he.
Those Proud Boys all in black with their faces. No, that was Antifa.
Oh, that was Antifa. Yeah. But to be realistic, there was in New York when Antifa showed up to the Gavin McInnes speech, and then the Proud Boys ran at Antifa, beat the crap out of him, and then started laughing about it and streaming it, and they went to prison for it. So even when they actually do, you know, the Proud Boys argue they didn't start the fight because Antifa was surrounding and harassing, and Antifa did rob a guy who was leaving the event. Still, if you're not like, don't swing, you know, defend. And if they start a fight, well, then I understand defending yourself and ending that fight, but you don't want to be the person starting the fight. Now these guys went to jail. It's also because they cooperated with cops. The cops were like, what happened? Here's exactly what happened. They said, okay, gang violence, going to prison. Antifa refused to cooperate. Yeah. They're gone. They're safe. Now I'll tell you how things get creepy. We're talking about Canada, right? Oh, this is going to have a direct and immediate impact on all of the Proud Boys in the United States. You know why? You guys know about the Five Eyes Spy Club, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Luke, I know you do. Ian?
Yeah, I know.
Brad?
I've heard of it.
I don't know, no.
So what do we got? Canada,
Australia,
New Zealand, the U.S., and what is it, South Africa? Or the UK? The UK.
The United Kingdom, yes.
The Five Eyes Spy Club. It's very clever. It's really simple. You see, spying on American citizens, actually against the Constitution, is illegal, right? You can't. In theory. No, but in a lot of ways, it's there's still some barriers. What happens if Canada spies on an American citizen? Oh. And then the U.S. says, hey, Canada, you know anything about Enrique Tarrio? You called him a terrorist. Are you spying on him? We are. Can we look at that? Yes, you can.
I see how this works.
Yikes.
Yep. And it's been that way for a long time. It was actually, it was Edward Snowden, I think, who revealed a lot of this stuff. This manipulative, this circuitous game they play where, well, you can't spy on people in the U.S., but Australia can. There's probably still some restrictions on whether or not the U.S. is allowed to look at certain things and can be sued over. But look at what happened with Michael Flynn and unmasking. Well, in theory, was the right response.
And look at, there's probably so much more that we don't know about because people like Snowden don't get the pardon, right? And so there's so many whistleblowers that probably haven't come forward because of that. So the surveillance state and the spying is always crazy, but it always is crazy because it's only like the tip of the iceberg. You know, there's so much more there that we don't know about. And I wonder sometimes just how bad and how pervasive it actually is.
Dude, hold on. What is it? Smoke bombs. Smoke bombs.
Yes.
So we went to an airsoft store and we got some airsoft stuff, and some of it is just like the colored smoke, so for like signaling, and you know I don't think it's really good for a smoke screen, is it?
No,
it's just for like signaling your side or whatever.
For like 10 seconds.
We didn't post anything. Our ads were like dog food and stuff because you know Luke's got a dog, and then we were downstairs and the box on the shelf. No one mentioned it. No one talked about it. Nothing was going on. We didn't go to any stores. It's been weeks.
Yep.
And then Luke was like, "Should we try one out?" Sure. Picks it up, throws it, and we sit there and we're like, meh, whatever. We go inside. What was it, 20 minutes later?
Yep, I check my phone, and it's an advertisement for smoke bombs.
What?
Yeah.
But
this is like the fifth time something like this has happened. So it's utterly, you know, if Facebook has that type of technology, imagine what the CIA has. Or other intelligence agencies. You know, the CIA, like the former head of John Brennan, that compared libertarians as a part,
pissed me
and
off.
nativists as a threat to national security, as a threat to national democracy. You know, there was this Twitter user, Spike Cohan, and he said, this stuck with me very much. He said, quote, a silver lining to the Biden administration labeling libertarians terrorists is that soon the CIA will probably start giving us money and weapons now. And I'm like, you know, this is by Spike Cohan, not my idea, but I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. If history repeats, that's exactly what's going to happen here. But we're seeing this kind of, you know, this term white supremacy being vagued all the way to nativists, libertarians.
Well, it's everything I don't like is racism, and then
Yeah.
I don't have to engage in actual political argumentation.
Exactly.
But the losers there are the actual victims of racism, because when
Right.
everything is racism, nothing is.
Yeah.
So it actually just undermines and dilutes the word, because real racism, that we literally would all agree, is horrible, and it
Yeah.
obviously does still exist. But when they've just started becoming calling everything they don't like racism,
But you know why they're doing it?
to win the argument.
Because they're racist.
Well,
No, but seriously. So you look at the efforts in California to repeal their Civil Rights Act and their Constitution. Yes, they are racist. They want special laws for people based on race. We, who don't like racism, oppose that.
Well, this is like Joe Biden. He said that he will be conditioning his COVID stimulus aid to specifically favor African American and
That's-
different minority groups.
That's illegal.
That is it's definitely illegal, but
Yeah.
also it's like the opposite of American values, right? We
Right.
want, or at least we used to want, equality under the law, and now they're like, actually, we want inequality under the law, but woke.
This spying thing reminds me of Captain America: Winter Soldier, where the bad guys, Hydra, develop an algorithm where they can target people who are basically deviant, and then their plan is to just kill them all with these airships. That's what the movie's about. So I have to wonder, Facebook, it has been reported, knows when you will poop.
What?
Yeah.
No.
joke. Yes. Well, yes, 100%.
How?
So first, considering the power of their AI, I think the average person could just be like, yeah, I'd imagine their algorithms and artificial intelligence are strong enough to determine and make these predictions. But it's actually really simple. You have a pattern of behavior. They know where you work, right? You're in your house, your phone location service is on. Every morning around 8 a.m., you leave and go to Starbucks where you work. They know. Then you leave Starbucks around noon and go to McDonald's. They know when you ate. They have general understanding of the average person's, waste cycle after eating. But they also know when you enter a room and stop moving. So they can actually now predict when you will be going to the bathroom. They know actually where you will eat before you do. So there's simple things that these algorithms can find. If somebody, let's say on your location services, you went to Salad Works or whatever, I'm sure that's a place probably, right? And they're like, okay, someone who ate leafy greens is more likely to do this tomorrow. Yeah. People don't realize these simple things that are seemingly meaningless have a huge impact. Let's say they see that you've gone to an ice cream shop or whatever. They're going to be like, oh, okay, tomorrow he's not going to be feeling well because he's eating a bunch of sweets and candy. They can predict your behavior. Think about how simple it is. Look, if someone told me I went and got a whole bunch of Taco Bell last night, I'll be like, oh, you're going to be taking a dump for a long time. No offense, Taco Bell, your food's good, but come on.
That's when the premium advertisements come in after the Taco Bell.
Now people are going to get Taco Bell ads?
Yes.
No, but like if someone told you they went and ate a bunch of garbage fast food, you would immediately assume like your stomach's going to be screaming at you. Think about what an AI can discern based on all of these other things. I'd imagine the CIA knows what you will do before you do it. Yeah. It's like pre-crime.
Especially with all the selfies everyone keeps taking and photos of themselves. I mean, some people take like hundreds of photos of themselves, and I'm like, what do you think you're doing with that? You think there's, I mean...
Oh, it's all being fed into these machines. Like this was another big story
Yep.
that these selfies are automatically being scraped by MIT and other institutions to create artificial intelligence. How do you know how they do the face morphing app? It's because they have everyone's faces and then they've like created an algorithm that tracks.
Yeah. So why is it that no one cares? When I talk to other people my age, right, like other people in their 20s, and you tell them, that Alexa, the FBI can hear you right now. They're like, LOL, okay. They've grown up like that, and I guess people really don't care. How do we make them care?
I don't know. I don't think they ever will. It depends on how much the government uses that power to overreach. But ultimately, look, if you're a criminal and you're at home and you say something about what you did and it's used as evidence, then you're a dumb criminal. Like you have,
right.
Like, there was actually a story where there was a murder, I guess, and someone had one of those fancy little Amazon devices and it recorded like everything that happened. And then they were like, how? And it just, I don't know. It must have been an accident. No, it's because it's recording everything you say. In order to actually know you're talking to it, it has to have its microphone turned on all the time. Now, they say they're not really tracking or anything, and maybe that's true, but I just kind of don't think it is. I think you'd have to be naive to think so.
Well, this is the crazy thing. This has been happening for a very long time, even before Edward Snowden. I remember walking up to the head of the NSA and the CIA, General Hayden, and I asked him, hey, your NSA agents were caught spanking it to people's private photos that through their text messages before Snowden. He was like, no, it doesn't. No, that never happened. I'm like, yes, it did. There was even mainstream news articles about this, and he lied right through his teeth. John Brennan, also another individual, former head of the CIA, lying through his teeth, and now he's bragging about Biden's intelligence agencies being laser focused on libertarians, and it's absolutely insane.
Let me tell you something crazy. Have you ever seen the photos of Mark Zuckerberg at work?
Yep, and then you see his computer.
Yep, he's got tape. He's got tape over his camera.
Not just that, but also the microphone.
Right. Yep.
Also,
but wait, there's more. So there's a phone. It's called the OnePlus 7 or something like that, and it has a manual mechanical camera. So the front-facing camera has to actually go and like come out the top. Most phones, the front-facing camera is just right there, always staring you in the face. You'll notice people like Zuckerberg will put tape over it. So my friend who has the OnePlus with the mechanical camera noticed that randomly on different websites, the camera will just open. Like, what? Like, But think about it. That would freak you out, right?
Right.
Why doesn't it freak you out that you got a camera on the front of your phone all the time and you never know when it's filming you?
If a kid is born into, if there's like a flood, we would all be like, oh, there's a flood, we got to do something about it. But then if kids are born during the time while the flood's already happening, it's just normal.
Yeah.
Yep.
The New York Post also had an article not so long ago, and their title was "Covering Up the Camera Could Damage Your Laptop." Apple.
Wow.
And then below it, all the comments are like, "Nice try, Fed." But we got to understand the larger implications here, because we have a president, Joe Biden, who bragged. He openly bragged in 2001 about how he wrote the Patriot Act in 1994 and how it was right-wingers and libertarians who fought against it. My video started with him saying, look what I did. I did this. I created the Patriot Act. Now we're passing it through after 9/11. Now they're talking about working a new Patriot Act 2.0 that many prominent Democrats are bringing forward that will give them even more surveillance power than they already have. Already, NSA agents were caught spanking it to your private text messages and your private photos. Now they want even more. I mean, what's next? Literally taking your girlfriend and doing...
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, what's next? What is next?
The thing is, though, when they get these powers, they say it's for one thing, and then they do it for another thing. So with the Patriot Act, they said it was for terrorism. You look back at the data, I don't know exactly, it's like 97% drug cases.
Yep.
So they get these powers in the name of terrorism or whatever they label it, and that probably, at least in 9/11, sure was a real thing. But then they know that they're going to use these powers for all sorts of things to just screw over the little guy.
As they literally finance the terrorist.
Right.
Literally. So it's like, how can I trust the guys that are shipping in Toyota trucks all the latest ammunitions, all the latest night vision gear, all the latest armory equipment possibly to ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and al-Nusra, telling me that they're fighting terrorism and I need to give up my freedoms because of Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, and ISIS that they're funding.
But you have to admit, it was really funny to see ISIS driving around in that truck with the Detroit plumbers phone number on it. You ever see that?
No.
So there's like a video of like ISIS guys in a truck, and the truck says like, Jim Bob's Plumbing, Detroit, with a phone number, and people are like, what? How did that happen? Yeah. And they're like, oh, it's because, the U.S. is sending it over there.
Yeah, we were also talking about getting a 50 cal, and I was actually looking at the history of the Beretta 50 cal, and it became prominent because the CIA bought it and were literally giving it to Al-Qaeda to fight the Russians.
Oh, God.
Like handgun 50 cal.
No, the 50 cal, the 50 cal.
Isn't a Desert Eagle 50 caliber?
No, we're talking about the
like anti-material, anti-tank guns.
That one specifically that we're thinking about.
I'm
purchasing.
reading a little bit about spy satellites. There's been some great leap forward in the Great Leap Forward. That was a communist Mao thing? Wasn't
Yes,
it? The Great
that
Leap
was in
Forward. So
China.
there's been some great leaps forward in spy satellite tech. They have this thing called the Capella 2, which can use radio beams to pulse through your building and measure energy inside the building. They say that you can't actually record people inside their building yet, but they may have been measuring your smoke bombs outside and been like, oh, so they heard you on the Amazon machine. Your phone was triangulating that you were at the airsoft store, and then radio telescopes are seeing the smoke clouds.
I don't think they'll do all that to sell an ad.
I don't think they would either, but I
have,
don't think they wouldn't.
They have lasers that they can point at a window, and then the words you say vibrate on the glass, and they can listen.
Yeah, I've heard that they can listen through your house from space.
Yep.
Well, I don't know about from space. Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, you have to imagine the stuff we know about is nothing compared to what they actually
This is
have.
the stuff they finally revealed in December of 2020.
But also think about, like, we're talking about what Facebook can do. wow, I wonder what the feds and the CIA can do. It's like, dude, they don't have to do much. You're walking around with a microphone and a camera and a tracking device all day. They know where you are.
They coordinate with Facebook, with Amazon, and with Boston Dynamics and other Capella, these companies to get all the techs to work together.
I'll tell you, no one's going to care until people, as long as people are fat, they're happy. You know what I mean? You give people food and you're not going to get a revolution. I just don't see it. You know what I mean? You might get, for whatever reason, these people storming the Capitol thinking there's a revolution going on. But I think what we've seen in many instances, for the most part, people have to be in real dire straits where they feel desperate and nothing can solve this problem. But as long as people are being fed, they'll sit around and just eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're not really scared.
Well, they feel like they have nothing else to hide, but they better hope they never piss off anybody powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how this goes. It's never the well-off and well-connected who have to worry about the government infringing on their rights or screwing them over. No, it's going to be the little guy, and it might be too late at that point.
I mean, actually, I disagree a little bit. It's if you're in the club, you're in the club, but there are probably some people who gain upward mobility, and that's when you're in trouble. Do they need to remove you before?
If you get it, if you go up the wrong way.
Yeah, like if you're a Joe the plumber, why would they care? They're gonna be like, I don't know. If they need a patsy, I guess, but then it's like a lottery ticket's chance they frame you or whatever. I just don't see that. What I do see is they're gonna be keeping a hard eye on anybody who might gain too much power and threaten their club and their the upper elites and all that stuff.
I mean, that's what Bill Benny.
Well, look at Trump.
Yeah, well, Bill Benny said this a long time ago. He was at the intelligence agencies saying, why are we collecting data on everyone, everything? Why are we catching this vast net and losing ourselves in it when we could do strategic spying on actual jihadis, on actual threats that pose a danger to the American people? But we're not doing that. We're not effective at stopping any terrorism at all because we're collecting as much as we can. What are we going to be doing with all of that data?
I'll tell you exactly what happened. So there's Bill Benny. He's an NSA whistleblower, right?
Yes.
And he's talking to some guy. He's like, isn't it weird, that we're not actually stopping any terror? And the guy laughs and goes, Bill, it's because we do it. And then Bill goes, wait, what? And the FBI guy goes, wait, what? And then they just throw him out of the building. Like, oh, he wasn't supposed to know that, was he?
Well, he retired, and then of course he faced the prosecution for whistleblowing and revealing that the government was spying on every little thing you were doing.
This was way before Snowden, these revelations. He was like, I was telling you they could do this, but he didn't have the hard documents. He's been saying they spy on every phone call. They know exactly what you're doing all the time.
He went through the official chain of command and whistleblowed officially, and they still went after him, and they still hurt him. And it took Edward Snowden literally taking the documents, releasing them to Glenn Greenwald, and getting them out there to the world. And there's still a lot of questions about where's the rest of the documents as well.
So think about this. If this is what the U.S. government is doing, what is China doing?
Yeah.
What are they doing with TikTok?
Yeah.
What are they doing with all the data they have on Americans?
They're watching you poop.
Right. They're probably doing more than that. They're probably watching you to create blackmail files on everybody that's going to end up working for the government.
Mm-hmm.
So they can shake you down.
And right now there's like an NSA guy, an FBI, and a CIA guy, and they're all watching this podcast with like popcorn going like, yeah, it's totally right about China, man. Like, that's a good point. But they're not watching the show on YouTube. They're watching through our phone cameras. Like, Luke made a really good point. Are you watching Timcast IRL? Yeah, but I'm assigned to Ian, so... It's funny, there's a meme about my FBI agent. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like people... Like, it's a joke. It's like, haha, and we know what's happening and we don't care. Eventually, I think the main issue is whether or not they abuse the power. Mm-hmm. Like, cranking it to someone's girlfriend or something and getting caught doing it.
Which they did.
Right. It's are they actually going to infringe on your life?
I care about it, but I feel overwhelmed as if we're in an avalanche that's going down the mountain and we're in the snow like I care that there's an avalanche, but I'm not concerned with stopping the avalanche right now.
But
I'm concerned with surviving.
It's all about positive mental attitude.
Oh, okay.
So we're in the avalanche, right?
I'll just will the avalanche to stop.
No. It's all these people are screaming. I'm just sitting back as the avalanche goes down and I'm chilling. It's kind of fun, you know what I mean? Like when you're skydiving and like you realize your parachute's down, you're like, well, at least I get to enjoy myself. Whee! And so we know the avalanche is going to go off the cliff and we're all doomed.
Ride the avalanche. That could be another shirt.
Just surf it. You know what I mean? You can't stop where the avalanche is going, but you can throw down your board and just cruise while you can.
And there's this thought that maybe we can stop the avalanche. or redirect the avalanche?
No, because
if
anyone becomes a threat to derailing the narrative, derailing the agenda that's set for you, the NSA, the FBI, with their predictive programming algorithms, with their pre-crime technology, could figure that out. They could say, oh, he's growing in popularity. He's getting a lot of followers. He's reaching a big mass of people. We need to intervene because he's heading towards a trajectory towards actually making some substantial changes in our government.
Yes,
stop him immediately.
You're overthinking it. They don't need to do that because they have their shills and their useful idiots already. Which brings me to the next story. Yahoo News. 100 plus Politico staffers send letter to CEO railing against publishing Ben Shapiro. And this is an example. So what we're just talking about is that if you're starting to become too influential, too powerful, they'll come after you, try and take you down. If what you're saying goes against the established narrative, they will try and stop you. Ben Shapiro is fairly mainstream conservative, so he's not that threatening. But there are many people, and they've been banned. Parler, for instance. Parler is a threat to the narrative, banned. Now, Ben Shapiro is still not perfectly aligned, so he's just outside where they want the narrative to be. Here's what happens. Yahoo says, more than 100 Politico staffers signed onto a letter to publisher Robert L. Britton expressing disgust with allowing right-wing firebrand Ben Shapiro to guest author one day's edition of the Playbook and with the outlet's subsequent handling of the fallout. Earlier this month, the Beltway news outlet handed over the keys to its signature news product to Shapiro, a talk radio host and pundit who has long been one of the most controversial voices in right-wing media. That's actually 100% not true. In right-wing media, Ben Shapiro is not controversial at all. He's actually fairly,
mainstream.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, with all due respect, tepid. Like, you're not turning on Ben Shapiro and hearing some ranting lunatic calling for insurrection. You're hearing a guy giving his opinion, and it's like,
lawyer.
Yeah, he's a lawyer, and it's just very much like, oh, that was a good point, Ben, and it's very normal.
But the worst thing about this is that it's journalists doing it to me. I can say this as a journalist.
They're not journalists.
Okay, they're people who call themselves journalists. And if you're a journalist and you don't believe in open debate and free speech and you think other people's ideas make you unsafe, right? You are not a journalist. Learn to code. Do something else because you do not belong in this. Look, I'm going to get banned for that.
Yep.
But it's seriously, it's sick. I mean, these people have come to see ostensibly neutral outlets. Like Politico is not supposed to be a left-wing thing. It's not supposed to be Jacobin, right? As their zones where even just a momentary one-day intervention of a conservative voice violates their safe space, makes them feel betrayed by the institution they work for. That is diagnostic of a sick mentality.
Well, here's what they say. According to multiple Politico insiders familiar with the situation, the letter to Albritton criticized the decision to publish Shapiro, claiming it had demoralized a substantial portion of the newsroom, but also railed against the response to criticism offered by editor-in-chief Matt Kaminsky. It's an internal matter and will be handled as such, a political spokesperson told the Daily Beast. During a combative meeting on January 14th, the day of Shapiro's publication, the top editor defended the editorial decision to irate staffers by claiming, mischief-making has always been a part of Politico's secret sauce. We were an upstart. Some of that sensibility is always going to be a part of this publication. The staff letter sent last week to Albritton maintained that Kaminsky had not appropriately apologized for his responses, additionally referencing an email he sent to staff on January 15th, which was obtained and reviewed by the Daily Beast. The top editor expressed regret for his initial response about making mischief, but reiterated that publishing Shapiro was part of his hopes to experiment and mix things up. And that's why they don't like it. Because I'm sure there were a lot of new conservatives who came to Politico and liked what they were seeing, and there were probably some moderates who heard an opinion they hadn't heard before. But let me tell you why this is all BS. It's very, very simple. Remember when there was a collective scream that we all could physically hear when Tom Cotton wrote an op-ed saying, send in the troops? Mm-hmm. It was like one day I just heard, and I was like, what's happening up in my window? I could hear it everywhere. It was all of these leftists screaming in news media, by the way, about how awful it was that they dared publish this in the New York Times. Send in the troops, Tom Cotton said, to end the riots in Portland. And then they sent in 25,000 troops to Washington, D.C. to prevent an insurrection. Oh, but that's different. That's okay. Now they're all happy. Now they're all like, well, it's good that we have our security here. They're keeping us safe. Apparently, Nancy Pelosi requested crew-manned machine guns in a civilian. Yes, this is was it Ken Cuccinelli? I think you said this.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable in a civilian town in a city. I know this federal jurisdiction. Reported, I should say, Ken Cuccinelli said she requested this of them Could you imagine what would happen if a bunch of unarmed Trump supporters, well, some of them were armed, but a large group of angry Trump supporters were like waving Trump flags and like shaking a fence. And then Nancy Pelosi was like, use the crewman machine guns. And they started going, there's civilian buildings nearby. You can't do that in a city. Are you nuts? So apparently they were like, no, we don't do that here. Like, that's not how things go. Where's the outcry from the left now? So they're complaining about Ben Shapiro. No, it's not fair. You're publishing him. But we know their complaints are BS.
There's no conservative they would accept. I mean, unless a conservative that's just going to confirm all their beliefs and go totally never Trump and become Jennifer Rubin, Max Boot. Yeah. But here's the thing that bothers me too. It's not even that they were objecting to the content of what he wrote. They were objecting to just him as a person being allowed to speak in that platform because of like tweets from 2007 or something that upset them. It would be actually at least something we could fight against and debate if they were saying that column was bad and shouldn't have been published. No one cares about, none of these people freaking out about it could tell you what he wrote. Most of them didn't even read it, I would bet.
I don't even know what he wrote.
$1,000. It was about impeachment. It was about saying, well, here's why Senate Republicans aren't going to support impeachment. I talk to them. They tell me this. It was not even very opinionated. He said Democrats overplayed their hand. No, he might have. But
my wife's a doctor.
Right. The funny thing is he does have a style that can be, like you said, kind of combative, but he's very mainstream. He's not the razor firebrand that you'd think these people couldn't handle. If they can't handle him, there's no one they can handle. Right. But the problem is that they frame their opposition to him as a matter of safety, and that will never stop bothering me. Ben Shapiro's ideas make other people unsafe. Well, then there's something wrong with you. You're not an adult. You need to return to 5th grade and develop the emotional stability of a grown human being.
But you know what, man? I read this story a long time ago about this family that was on a beach, and then it was a dad, his wife, and their like 2 kids. And then all of a sudden they saw a large black wolf walking down the beach, and they panicked, and they swam out to this rock that was like 20, 30 feet out, and they huddled together on it, shaking, dripping wet for warmth as the wolf paced back and forth. And it was like this harrowing experience the man had recounted. And I was thinking about that, and I'm like, I wonder what would have happened 200 years ago. Would he have pulled out his like flintlock pistol and his sword and said, protect the kids, bang, and then like drew his sword to protect them from the wild beast? Or would they have hid and shivered? And imagine back in the day when we were faced with these very serious challenges and men literally walked around armed all the time, something like that probably wouldn't have happened. If it was a couple hundred years ago, well, let's say even 100 years ago, they probably would have had a gun on his belt, when he probably would have just shot the thing or something like that. Now, today's day and age, you still have circumstances where a dude who lives out in the middle of nowhere with his family is going to be armed. But the point I'm bringing up is, like, I read that story and I thought to myself, like, are we gradually just getting weaker and more scared of everything? I think the answer is yes. And this story is a perfect example. Ben Shapiro's opinions now make you unsafe. So, you have these colleges where they say things like that, their speech is violence. Like, they literally now think but think about it. You have these kids who grow up where they get participation trophies, where no one's allowed to pick on them or insult them in any way. And then they probably feel real physical pain they can't deal with when someone calls them like a stupid doo-doo head. They're like, oh, it hurts. I've never experienced this pain before.
It feeds into itself, right? Because if you start not being exposed to different ideas or different opinions, you don't ever develop the thick skin, and then it just becomes more and more out of control to the point where because the thing is, when they can frame other people's speech as violence or endangering their safety, that is the necessary precursor they have to get to logically argue they should be allowed to shut down that speech preemptively. Because if it's just really offensive, most people won't agree they should be able to shut it down.
Well, to bypass the First Amendment.
Right, exactly.
They didn't even do that here. They said that this demoralized the newsroom. And most of their complaint was with this guy who said that part of what Politico did was cause mischief. So they're not even saying that it was making them feel like they're in danger.
How pathetic was it? How pathetic was it to even claim having Ben Shapiro write an op-ed was mischief? It's not.
It's really not.
He's a mainstream, high-profile, prominent conservative, one of the biggest podcasts in the world.
It was boilerplate, too, the actual article. The article was not controversial. He's written some controversial things, right? It wasn't like he was writing about trans issues. It wasn't like he was writing about abortion. He was explaining Senate Republicans' rationale on impeachment.
It's like you said, they were objecting to him.
Yes.
He could have walked in and said, hey, I'm Ben Shapiro. And they would have went like, oh, they let him in the building. And they would all scream, and like one guy jumps out the window. And then he's like, okay.
But I will say it only helps him, right? It's like it is an example of like they only confirm everything he says about the liberal media when they do stuff like this, and they don't seem to realize that they're just proving his point.
And they're only propping him up. That's another thing we have to understand here. Like this is backfiring, and luckily it is, because sometimes it doesn't and they get their way. But we can't give our way to these people that are, I think, clinically insane. I mean, if you're at a point in life where hearing words makes you feel pain, what's wrong with you? And again, I keep reminding people, one of the most important powers you have as a human being is the power of your reaction.
I got to add to this, just to say I'm not a long time gun person. I always tell this story. In January of last year, I was like, I don't want any guns in my house. Now we got a bunch. Luke's talking about buying a 50 cal, and I was like, yeah, okay. So we like guns. And I remember seeing that story from the journalist who claimed he got PTSD from firing an AR-15. Mm-hmm. So you ever
I'm sorry?
Yeah. Who did he write with?
I think it was ABC. I'm not sure.
He fired an AR, and I bet it was probably like 5.56.
Yeah.
And he claimed that he got PTSD from shooting it. He could feel the shock wave, and it hurt his arm and all that. And I'm like, here's what's funny, because it's something I didn't understand until I actually experienced it. Game load for a shotgun when you're hunting turkeys has more recoil, is a bigger explosion than an AR-15. So when we went to the range and we had bird shot, I'm like, man, you can feel that bird shot. And then when you're firing the AR, it's like actually not that much at all relative. So if this guy is getting PTSD from an AR-15, complaining it's like it's a weapon of war and he was traumatized from it, I'm like, well, heaven forbid you have to hunt a turkey.
It was
like, wow.
It was the Daily News. The title was, "What is it like to fire an AR-15? It's horrifying, menacing, and very, very loud."
In 2016.
By Gersh Kuntzman.
Fittingly
named. 2016. And the first headline here, it says, "It felt to me like a bazooka and sounded like a cannon."
He said the explosions, loud like a bomb, gave me a temporary form of PTSD. For at least an hour after firing the gun just a few times, I was anxious and irritable.
That's kind of offensive to PTSD victims.
Yes,
right?
Very much so.
My favorite image that people have posted on this as a meme is a little girl with a pink shotgun shooting.
She's great. I think she has her own
YouTube channel?
Instagram page where when she does competitive shooting.
I was thinking.
Oh, wait. Look, there was an update on the story. It says, many people have objected to my use of the term PTSD in the above story. The use of this term was in no way meant to conflate my very temporary anxiety with the very real condition experienced by many of our brave men and women in uniform. I regret the inarticulate use of the term to describe my in-the-moment impression of the gun's firepower and apologize for it. I have also posted a follow-up piece here. Oh, did he?
That's exactly what it meant. He says, that's not what I meant. That's exactly what it meant.
He was terrified.
To gun lovers, you can't even have an opinion on assault rifles unless it's theirs. Here's the proof. Bro. He says the gun debate is over. When's this article from? It's from June 15, 2016. In all my years in journalism, coming up on 30, I have never received so much angry mail as I did after yesterday's story. What it's like to fire an AR-15. Bro, it's because you take a turkey hunting... Listen, if you were hunting pheasants or squirrels, there would be a bigger recoil than your AR-15. That's the craziest thing. I've asked all these dudes who are like, we're at the range, and I'm like, what do you think? And they're like, that guy's nuts. Like, what's the weakest possible interpretation of using a gun? Hunting squirrel. And he's gonna have like game load or birdshot, and is gonna be facing more pain
But
from
it's like
that.
he's untrained too, so it's like what it's like to hit a baseball that's being thrown 100 miles an hour. From someone that's untrained, it's going to be terrifying. They might get hit by the ball. It might break their.
Ian, can we take you shooting?
Yeah, sure.
Let's go this weekend. And I think
Ian's been shooting. He fired the 410 out of the governor.
Blasted his heart
we went
out
together.
with it.
Yes.
You fired the shotgun shells, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like a big shotgun shell, but 410 bore out of the revolver. It's pretty big. I'd say it's way.
I thought it was going to be way more kickback than what it was. If you're prepared for it and you have a grip and you're focused, it's not. It's very.
Doesn't this tell you how out of touch journalists are with the people they cover? It would be so interesting to go into one of these newsrooms and actually, if you could get them to be honest, right? The Daily News, the New York Times, how many people own a gun and actually know the true answer to that? How many voted for a Republican? Maybe there's like a janitor there, or like, you know what I mean? To see how many of you go to church. How many of you are pro-life? Any of these issues where it's like the public is split, but the institutions that cover them are so dominated by one side, how can anyone think, even if they were well-intentioned, which I don't really believe anymore, even if they were well-intentioned, I don't see how they could cover a population like that. the funny thing is they say this and they acknowledge this in terms of diversity on the skin surface level. They're saying a newsroom with no black people can't cover America fairly, which maybe that's not true, but they at least acknowledge it in that capacity. They don't acknowledge the same thing for actual ideas and actual perspectives and experiences.
You reminded me of that Huffington Post picture where they took a photo of their editorial board when one day it was all women. And it was just a whole bunch of white women. Yeah. And everyone's like, look at how diverse we are. And I'm like, wait, what are you talking about?
They said it was something like, what do you notice about our boardroom?
Oh, yeah.
And it was like a bunch of women. It was all women. And then someone was like, it's all white people. They're like, Huffington Post doesn't hire black people. And then they had to like apologize or something.
Oh, wait, actually, that reminds me of something. Huffington Post Opinion, I think it was, actually publicly they released. So I used to pitch op-eds in a job that I was in, and the editor there released like data about the percentage of minority authors we published, the percentage of trans authors that we published, and they promised to do better next year. They're like, we will actively ensure that we publish more black people, more trans people. And it's like, so you're just openly admitting that you're not going to publish the best articles. You're going to ask people, so are you trans, by the way? I need to know so I can know whether to run this or not.
This is a really great op-ed, but who do you like banging?
Right.
Can you publish my opinion? I don't know. Do you like dick or do you like...
like the equality of outcome versus the equality of opportunity. So like if they publish more people that created a love of all humans to work together, as opposed to published more black people and more women that maybe would even cause diversion, cause, what would you call it? Like hate. I can't even think of the word because I don't like it in my lexicon. Yeah, division. So you could have a bunch of white guys that create a space where everyone comes together, or you could have a black guy and a white woman and an African or whatever, all creating a situation where people hate each other. It doesn't matter who they are.
They're never going to publish Enrique Tarrio. When they say they want more black writers, they're not talking about Enrique or Candace Owens or the Hodge twins. They're talking about social justice activists who agree with them. When they're talking about diversity, they're not talking about bringing on people with different ideas. They're talking about people who look different but have the exact same ideas.
Well, and if they don't have the same ideas, then you ain't black.
Right. Yes.
That's Joe Biden for you.
Right. So it's not only just, or it's like Peter Thiel, right? The LGBT media wrote about him that he's not actually a gay man. He just has sex with other men because he endorsed Trump. Dude, that's literally an article that was published in The Advocate, which is supposed to be a gay rights magazine.
Man, it's the look, saying double standard and hypocrisy has become redundant at this point. It's something special and new. It's just like, you have logic and you have like math and you have formula. What's the opposite? Like abstract absurdism. It's articles that are meant to make no sense on purpose. It's like the art. When you look at art, and it's like you have like a beautiful, like we have a picture over there, and it's like a beautiful like aurora borealis, and there's a lake, and that's like a real thing, realism. Tangible. And then what's the art called where the
abstract?
Abstract art. That's what it is. It's abstract. It's abstract politics. Right. It's meaningless, and it's meant to be like, that's not a possible thing. Your ideas are nonsensical.
They're like
on
perfect.
Purpose.
They're like perfect little establishment slave ninnies that are used to push the agenda and the narrative of controlling people and getting rid of people's freedoms. And they use it over issues, and they use it over these talking points and these buzzwords that absolutely have no meaning. Just like in 1984, Orwellian doublespeak is becoming more and more of a reality.
Yes, but look what people do with freedom. In New York, they bought too large of sodas. So Michael Bloomberg had to put a punitive tax on it so that people would stop buying too large of sodas.
Michael Bloomberg used his freedom to put a ban on other people's sodas.
Yes. Yeah. See? You're trying to curtail Michael Bloomberg's freedom?
That SOB had me arrested. I have a long history with him, by the way.
Didn't you yell at him?
He's a dirty, dirty politician. He promised to help out the first responders, and the 9/11 first responders, police officers, firefighters, medics, military men who were sick and dying after 9/11 told me, hey, he's promising to give us this funding and support this bill if you personally, Luke, stop harassing him.
What?
And confronting him, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you want to get into this story, but I every time he did a radio show, every time he did a ribbon cutting, every time he did a gala, every time he did a public event, I was on him like white on rice, confronting him and asking him, like, you're cutting support. He said that first responders were sick because of PTSD and not the actual, what was it, that dust that creates
asbestos?
Asbestos, yeah. He said, it's not the asbestos in the air that's hurting all these first responders and rescue workers. It's PTSD. There was
it's psychosomatic that they can't breathe.
No, I worked there.
No, trust me. There was
nasty.
a police officer who died that he called the not a hero, James Sadroga, and I was on him. I was like, what are you doing cutting funding from these incredibly important individuals that came to New York City on 9/11 at Ground Zero to rescue people, and now they're being even denied basic health benefits that they had in their contract? So I was on Bloomberg because I knew many of these guys. A lot of them were my friends. A lot of them were...
Bloomberg never funded it.
A first responder organization came to me, the John Feelgood Foundation, and they said, Luke, we just got a call from the mayor's office. He's telling us that Bloomberg's running for a re-election. He wants you to stop questioning him at every press conference. He wants you to stop calling into all of his radio shows. If you leave him alone for his re-election, he will give us this bill, right? I did, and I went to other gala events, and I covered other, book signings, and other ribbon cuttings where he was at. I just kind of gave him a side eye, but I didn't do anything, and I kept my word to the first responders, even though I told them that Bloomberg was going to lie. Bloomberg gets reelected for a third term. One of the first thing he does is he cuts medical benefits for thousands of 9/11 first responders. They call me back, this particular organization. They're like, Luke, he lied. He screwed us over. I'm like, I told you so. I went to confront him, and literally they had NYPD intelligence, a specific branch, waiting for me as I'm going up the escalator to one of the gala events, and they're like, Radowski, you're coming with us. I'm like, what? No, I'm not. I'm going outside. They grabbed me, held me down. I'm like, I want to go. I want to leave. They're like, no, you're not leaving. They came back with 15 police officers, and they said, Luke, we told you to leave. Why didn't you leave? I'm like, yeah, I got it here on camera that you told me I can't leave. Took away the camera, threw me in jail. The police officers were fans, so they were literally like taking me out and giving me smokes and out of the jail cell. NYPD intelligence came down and made sure to send me down to Central Bookings for 3 days.
Wow.
During the weekend, even though it was a criminal trespassing charge that went on for 2 years, found not innocent, but that was one of the reasons that the Canadian government used to ban me from Canada for 10 years, because they said I had a criminal arrest record, according to the FBI.
What you're saying is that you confessed to committing a crime?
No, I didn't commit anything, but I was never found guilty. They dropped the charges.
Interesting.
But Bloomberg is one of the dirtiest, nastiest politicians
and isn't
out
it
there.
crazy that the Democrats are fine with it because he gives them money?
Exactly.
Like when he ran for president, people finally talked about it a little, but mostly conservatives. This dude has the longest history of racism and sexism and Me Too and misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he literally did the stop and frisk where it's like, all right, you look black, get up against the wall, let the police
He's on
violate your civil liberties.
There's a recording of him arguing with people about how it's right to racially profile.
Right.
And this guy was running on the Democratic ticket, and he had support.
Yes, because he had the
Amazing.
checks. That's really, it's a surface level commitment to all of this diversity stuff, because ultimately they knew that they needed him to beat Trump, so they decided, whatever, all our standards are flexible.
It's amazing that he like, look, there are arguments for stop and frisk. I don't agree. I think it's a Fourth Amendment violation. But there are arguments about you go where the crime is. I've heard that before. It's like, well, if there's crime happening there, then we go there to try and stop it. He didn't even do that. Like, there's an actual argument for people to say, like, well, where are they supposed to go, to the wealthy areas? No, Bloomberg literally said, but that's what the criminals look like. Like, oh, dude, what?
I mean, I was in New York City during stop and frisk, and there was a number of occasions where even I was grabbed up, thrown against the wall by some disrespectful NYPD officers that were rude, that were antagonizing. I got beat up by them, previously before on a separate incident when I was younger, and they just came up on you and they started grabbing you all in your personal, parts, and I can't even describe what they did, a number of instances, but this is what they were trying to normalize. Government agents walking up to you on the street as you're doing your business, and throwing you against your wall, insulting you, and putting their hands down your pants.
That's crazy, because if that had gotten federal traction, I mean, that's like massively totalitarian.
Yeah. But that's what these elitists, that's what a lot of these billionaires, that's what a lot of these people call for. That's what they want, because it gives them ultimate power. It gives them something that, of course, they can't get enough of, just like money. It's like people reach a certain level where they have so much money, they only could focus on having more money no matter how much they have. So the same goes for power. It's an addictive substance, just like attention is. And it's something that needs to be addressed against these megalomaniac psychopaths, which are in Washington, D.C.
Let's talk about government power spending with this next story. From the Daily Mail, revealed Fauci is America's highest paid federal employee on $417,608 salary after joking in an interview with Matt McConaughey that he was just a government worker on a government salary. So,
how do I get one of those government salaries?
Seriously?
Gosh.
They say Fauci is the nation's highest paid federal employee, raking in $417,000 in 2019, which is the latest year that federal salary data is available. He made more than the president's $400,000 a year salary, In 2019, he also made more than Mike Pence, who outranks Fauci in authority, and made $235,100 in salary, as well as Dr. Deborah Birx, who made $305,000. If Fauci remains in this position and doesn't get a raise, he'll make $2.5 million from 2019 through 2024. I don't know why they picked those years, but I guess it's because of the next term. Data shows that the highest federal employees were medical and dental officers. Why are we paying? Look, you can talk about Dr. Fauci and his right or wrong and lockdowns and all that stuff, but why are we paying these people so much money? And it's not just about Fauci. It's about just all of these people in general getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from the taxpayer for what?
Because they're friends with the people that make the rules, that dole out the finance, and it's free money for them because it's tax money. They don't have to know us to take our money. They just get it.
So that's funny, though, because I thought those numbers would be even worse, because at the state and local level, like at the university level, a university president, at least at where I went, UMass, makes north of $650,000, right? The basketball coach at UMass, which sucked and lost most of its games, made $1 million when I was there. He made more than the president, and these are all government employees. Made more than the governor of Massachusetts.
It's a public
institution. These are all taxpayer funded. And so, if you can't succeed in business, go to government, and because they actually, the funny thing about government is how they advance and how they do raises is not based on merit. It's literally just based.
All right. I'll say this: tax money going to these people to pay them exorbitant salaries is theft.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
I've been working on you for a while. We did it, folks. Yes. Celebrate. Tim finally admitted it.
Because I think the idea of taxing is fine. The problem is when the government's corrupt, then it's not being used for what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be used for. You can make all the arguments in the world that I hear from the left about taxes are good. It's like paying a subscription to receive the roads and the safety and the clean water. And I'm like, sure, if that's what it was used for. Am I supposed? Look, I got no problem with taxes. I have no problem with the concept of paying taxes. The problem I have is how much is going to blow up kids? How much is going to pay this dude's salary for the basketball team, which is pointless. Like, why are you getting $1 million?
But that's the thing, is in concept that makes sense, but government is always going to be corrupt. Show me the government that isn't corrupt. Government power, centralized power by its very nature corrupts. Even good people, though good people are usually not drawn to high office and running for power. This is public choice theory in economics. It self-selects for the people that are the most ambitious and most ruthless. They're the only ones that can get to the top of the food chain. So government corruption is not a bug. It is the system.
Yeah, very good point that you made there. Now, there are some people arguing that we should pay politicians and government officials a high amount so they don't get bribed by special interests. But this definitely seems exorbitant, to say the least. Dr. Fauci, I mean, I'm definitely not a fan of him, especially everything he did at the Wuhan laboratory, specifically trying to make coronavirus as lethal as it could be with the gain-of-function data studies. But, you know, there's an argument to be made that you don't want these people working for other interests. But as I've been arguing against that, saying, you know, money corrupts individuals and you never have enough. So even if you do pay them a lot, you know, what's the middle ground here? Where do we meet in the middle to make sure that they're satisfied and that they're not corrupt? Because, I mean, essentially, let's ask ourselves, what did Dr. Fauci do? I mean, he's repeating a lot of the World Health Organization kind of directives and talking points, but those keep flip-flopping all the time. A lot of the projections were wrong. I think it's very fair to say that the United States handling of this entire situation has been extremely poor. So when you have something that is not done right, you shouldn't be paying top dollar for it.
Well, and that's the problem is with businesses, if they mess up and then guess what? They go
They go out
under.
of business.
Or if an employee messes up big time, they get fired. But think about it like this. The CDC literally blocked all COVID testing at the beginning and said you can only use our test, right? But then their test didn't work. And it took them months before they allowed private labs to go and make tests again. The CDC did not lose any money from their budget from that.
Exactly.
They didn't get cut. They didn't get shrunk. Like a private business that bombed that bad would probably go out of business or be boycotted.
Or even Dr. Fauci that told you that masks are bad, that you shouldn't wear masks. Dr. Fauci literally was telling you that, flip-flopping all the time under the directives of the World Health Organization, which he just a couple days ago was very excited that the United States is going to be back a part of and financing and funding, even though they don't even recognize Taiwan as a country, which is absolutely ridiculous.
We also have to talk about the Fauci fetish. Like the media and some of the liberals, not like some people just like him, right? But some people have gotten like culty with it.
Yeah.
Like they have like Fauci. I've seen Fauci sex toys.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I've seen like glowing profiles of him about how he's like a stud and and all these memes that are like sort of joking,
the
sexualizing
sex toy
Fauci.
screws you over, literally and figuratively.
You guys sense this like cult worship where like, who's the new?
It's like Greta Thunberg 2.0.
Who's the new celebrity? It's this guy Fauci. They're like, oh, it's this guy. Oh no, now it's Kamala Harris. Let's worship Kamala Harris.
Well, to be fair, Brad Pitt did play Dr. Fauci on SNL.
Good for him.
So, I mean, if you're looking at those kind of accreditations, you don't have much accreditation. What did Dr. Fauci do during this entire saga that we've been through that actually made a positive impact into the coronavirus? I mean, that's a serious, legitimate question that we need to be asking, especially if he's getting paid that much. I mean, can you name anything noble or great that he's done with the coronavirus other than just repeat World Health Organization talking points and contradict himself all the time?
Well, we don't know what he's done behind the scenes. And I imagine he seems like a good guy. I think he's done his best. And it was like a super horrible position to be in, right?
Yeah.
No one knew how to handle it. But no one can say he didn't make a ton of mistakes. He did. And we should be allowed to point those out and ask what the consequences are.
Yeah. Is there going to be any accountability? Is there going to be any way to get, justice for some of the larger consequences that are leading because of very bad government mistakes that have hurt
here's
people?
the thing that bothers me the most about Fauci and some of these other public health people is they were saying they changed their tune and then they act like they never did. So, for example, you mentioned masks, and that's a good one, but also schools.
Yeah.
Schools, Rand Paul and a bunch of other people, and science was showing this too in other countries, that reopening schools was perfectly safe and fine. And Fauci and other people were totally against it. And then they just pivoted. A month or two ago, they've really pivoted hardcore since the election and about lockdowns. And that's what I can't stand, is I feel a little gaslit by it all.
Yep.
You may have heard some chiming. I don't know if that was coming through on the podcast, but it was because I was scouring the web to try and find that story about Fauci and the research, and I got it to Newsweek.com. Dr. Fauci backed controversial Wuhan lab with U.S. dollars for risky coronavirus research. It's Newsweek.
How have I never heard that?
This is Newsweek.com.
That tells you that a lot, that I've never heard that story.
From April 28th of last year, they say Dr. Fauci is an advisor to Trump, yada, yada. Last year, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, led by Fauci, funded scientists at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and other institutions for work on gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses.
Yeah. Well,
what?
Well, the
Come on.
the particular bats that are in question here that many scientists and experts point to leading to the coronavirus are thousands of miles away from Wuhan. So the possibility of these bats traveling specifically to Wuhan is extremely improbable. Now,
Hold
do
on.
we have any empirical evidence showing that there's a direct link to this? No.
There
But there's
was-
a crap ton of circumstantial evidence highlighting exactly that there could have been an
okay,
accidental leak in the Wuhan
People
laboratory.
were selling them. People were taking animals to the wet markets. That's what they're saying. There is, from, I think, New York Mag, what they call the lab leak hypothesis. We don't know for sure.
Exactly. We don't know for sure, but there is a lot of circumstantial evidence that a lot of experts are looking at and pointing to and saying they were literally working on making the coronavirus jump from species to species, making it as dangerous as possible. This is where the term gain of function comes from. This is what Dr. Fauci was literally in charge of bankrolling, before the coronavirus.
So
and the United States, there was even diplomatic leaked cables saying that there's a high probability of a virus leaking from this Wuhan laboratory before the coronavirus leaked.
And just to clarify,
yeah.
This is from The Intelligencer, New York Mag, the lab leak hypothesis. For decades, scientists have been hot-wiring viruses in hopes of preventing a pandemic, not causing one. But what if? Yeah. And that's basically what he brings up, that there are many scientists saying that essentially the hypothesis is they were trying to create vaccines and then there was a breach of some sort. But I'm not saying that's true. If you read it in the New York Mag, take it from them.
People love sometimes you need a crisis, man. We couldn't get into Syria. The weapons of mass destruction weren't quite enough. 9/11 got people riled up, but there hasn't
For Iraq,
been.
you mean?
Yeah, just to rally everyone to become subservient, soldiers or for the cause or whatever.
Well, the reason this is important to me, because if we could understand the origin of this sickness, we could deal with it.
So the real issue right now is China blocking the World Health Organization or the researchers who want to come in.
Around a year, China has blocked the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization that sings its praises, that says that China did an amazing job with the coronavirus. They are even being blocked from coming in. And just a few days ago, finally, after I believe 3 or 4 official, very public attempts, did China grant the World Health Organization access into the supposed wet market.
Well, China reopened
the
the wet markets.
Yes.
That's the craziest part about all of
Yeah.
this. These wet markets are notoriously unhygienic and dangerous for diseases and jumping. And this happened, coming from one, was at least the original hypothesis. They reopened them. They evidently don't care. And another thing that bothers me actually as a journalist is I see all the time China's numbers just uncritically parroted.
Yep.
Like the headline will be China new case numbers has COVID under control, or China's economic numbers I'm particularly suspicious of. They're like rosy economy in China as the rest of world struggles. And I'm like, you're just repeating according to Communist Party officials.
Yep.
Well, hold on. You just said you're not going to question that? You think that those are just trustworthy figures you can just accept as fact?
Think about how many journalists in the United States all of a sudden became the cheerleaders for the U.S. intelligence apparatus when Donald Trump got elected. All of a sudden, everything the government said was true and correct all the time.
How many leftists made that switch, too? They're like... and also, they were kind of right, like decades ago, saying like the war on terror, they're infringing civil liberties, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, oh, they're spying on Trump. Heck yeah. Like,
well, that's okay. Now it's really funny because you got some lefties who are like, we mentioned the journalists with sending the troops. How dare you? Then they send in the troops to D.C. That's a good thing, and there's a good reason for it. Oh, okay.
And they're keeping them there up until March or maybe even indefinitely because of a supposed threat. Again, a threat.
It's the impeachment trial. Yeah. What did Jack Posobiec say? He's like, the military will remain occupying the city until the opposition leader's trial is over.
That's just absolutely crazy.
So I actually went into the city when this was all locked down and everything, and I had to like get an Uber to go somewhere to do something for my job, right? And he could only get me within a mile to where I needed to go because there was like not even SWAT teams, but like military trucks blocking the road and put up fences, and I had to walk the rest of the way. Like just get the Uber. I got the Uber like within a mile, and I was like, I guess I'll just walk.
What day was that?
Oh, that was like 2 days before inauguration.
Jeez.
It wasn't on inauguration day, and it wasn't even particularly close to the Capitol or anything. It was like a couple miles from there.
Have they toned down the security?
Somewhat, but so they reopened the highways and they reopened the bridges. They literally closed the bridges from Arlington to the D.C. Like you just couldn't go across. And I was like, how are people who are essential workers supposed to do that?
This shutting down of the economy and the world is really kind of crazy. My conspiratorial mind is like lit up the last few days, particularly the last few days for some reason thinking about Wuhan and Corona, because obviously Corona's nasty.
Dude.
But where it came from, totally up for debate. And we should talk about it because bioweapons, we've been making movies about them for 20 years, and it's like it is a terrifying idea.
I just
and
think
it's so disruptive to the world economy. I mean, it's just grinding things to a halt.
You're confusing the virus with the government.
Well, I'm thinking of the response to the virus is what I'm most concerned with.
Right. What we know about COVID is a 99.99 survival rate for people under 70 years old.
Yeah.
So the question is the government response rate. Now they're adjusting the PCR test threshold.
That was the World Health Organization that even.
Look, people have gotten sick. I know people who have gotten sick with it, and I know and I know people have had family members die with it.
Right.
I think the reality is never let a good crisis go to waste. It's just simple. It's the government saw an opportunity to exploit us because there was something happening.
So and government also, they never think of the unintended consequences, right? So they see the problem, they swing the hammer. Yeah. But it's like, I saw a study the other day, actually, and this was in the National Bureau of Economic Research, saying that 850,000 excess deaths will be caused from the COVID-related unemployment. And that's mostly from the lockdowns, not from the disease itself.
What is that like in over a year
over
span?
The next 15 years from suicides, from depression, from heart issues. This is a documented trend in economics that unemployment causes health issues, poverty causes health issues, and that's just one thing.
Yeah,
that's not counting
suicide,
That's not counting marital violence and domestic violence,
and the children of all the people that will affect. So if 850,000 people are going to kill themselves or die, what about all their kids?
Right.
There's another 16 million people.
But it's all these second order unintended consequences when they just looked at one thing and they didn't consider anything else, and then they refused to adapt also. That's the original, I think the original mistake you have to give some grace for. What's bothered me is the fact that they've doubled down on failed tactics. They haven't adapted.
And they got promoted for it and never held accountable for it. The other study that I saw was done by Duke, Harvard, and John Hopkins professors, and they talked about an excess of 1 million deaths coming in the future because of the longer effects of these lockdowns. And again, that's not even including the health screenings, the stoppage of cancer treatments, mental health illnesses, and a large number of economic illnesses that are going to be happening as, of course, people have to deal with the larger consequences of a failing economy, losing their jobs, losing their businesses, and having failing wages with just record medical care.
And don't forget the kids who have lost school and have it shut down. You will look back at the trends 10 years from now, and you'll see like a distinct class of children who were screwed over by this, and it will show in their lifetime success, because you can't miss a year and a half of school and just that's fine.
A lot of these kids are committing suicide, or at least trying to.
I saw a terrifying story about that, about a school that reopened. I can't remember the details, but a school that reopened because it had a suicide spike among its students, and they're like, we have to reopen. This was a private school. And you can't do this to kids, especially when we're also transferring it because they're not the ones at risk here at all. And so we're transferring the cost to them for the benefits for other subsets of society. I think that's fundamentally
Maybe
more.
Because there's been even some studies showing that there's no benefit towards lockdowns, and that lockdowns actually may create certain situations where people accumulate together at Walmart or Target or Costco, and therefore could even help spread the sickness even further. So there's even medical arguments being made like that.
There's studies showing that lockdowns don't work. Yeah. And part of it is this, right? So I got really frustrated by New York City and Cuomo. He ordered restaurants to close. They were at 25% capacity. They were getting people could go to restaurants, but it was limited. It was super safety measures. But the state's own data showed that only 1.4% of COVID cases were coming from restaurants. Most COVID cases were coming from private interpersonal household gatherings. Well, guess what happens when you shut down the restaurants? People have more gatherings. Like, these people actually made this worse by shutting down businesses. So not only did they slap New York entrepreneurs in the face, but they also probably made COVID worse.
You also see riots breaking out, which is talking about destroying people's lives. This Capitol riot, maybe it would have happened if there was no corona. Probably not.
It fuels them.
Yeah, people wouldn't be out screaming, destroying
emotion
things if they weren't forced to stay inside and losing their money and their income.
Trump would have won if there was no corona.
So not a bad argument.
That's a good shout.
Yeah.
I mean, but he also would have won it if he handled it better.
It's true. Yep.
Yeah.
He had an opportunity. And, interestingly, Trump relied too much on Fauci for whatever reason. Fauci, what I saw him doing was basically the media would say it and a day later he'd repeat it. And that's why he ended up being wrong so often. He'd say things like, oh, you shouldn't wear a mask. And then 2 days later, oh, yeah, you should wear a mask. And it's like, bro, they were saying that in the news like 2 days ago. So the dude, in my opinion, for a while I was like, I like Fauci. He seems to be on the level, seems to be keeping us apprised to things. And then it kind of felt like, wait a minute, this guy's like checked out, isn't he? He's like super old. He's been there for decades. He's getting $100,000 a year. He's just sitting back going like, what did they say on CNN?
Are his eyes at half mast because he's Zen or because he's on drugs?
Neither. It's because he's checked out.
He's like this.
Like,
when he
dude.
talks.
He recently made a statement talking about how the numbers are plateauing and everything seems very promising in the United States moving forward with COVID.
Was this after the election?
Yes. Well, also Michigan, D.C., Chicago, California, New York, all of the political leadership are making announcements that they're
Reopening.
going to be easing restrictions.
Luke, it's just a coincidence. It's just,
could be.
How many states was that again? How many cities?
Well, there's D.C., the state of Michigan, the city of Chicago, California, and New York.
That's
reopening?
5 numbers. That's not
only
enough
like-
to even win the Powerball.
That's
bro.
only like half the
Yeah.
country's population. Like the state of New
city
York.
centers,
the state of New York and
But
California.
but again, let's be open-minded. Could be a coincidence. Probability, who knows? Let's we could play those games at all. But I think it's important to have all those possibilities open.
But I
in our
agree with your
perspective.
shout though. Like Trump definitely would have won if COVID hadn't happened, because before then people were talking about the election in terms of socialism versus not, wokeism versus not,
And the economy.
in the economy, right? But then COVID, it really all became about competence and stability, and those are not Trump's strong suits.
Those are not government strong suits at all.
When Trump was giving his daily briefings, he reached his all-time approval rating in aggregate, and then all of a sudden the media panicked and then stopped airing them, saying he was lying too much. What really happened, in my opinion, was not whether or not Trump did a good or bad job. It was that no matter what happened, the media said it was a bad job. Now you have Joe Biden coming out saying in his recent speech, there's nothing we can do about the trajectory of COVID at this point.
When he said he was going to shut it down,
right,
while he was campaigning.
No, he's like, there's nothing we can do. Well, he had a plan. He said last year the travel ban won't do anything. Now he's just reinstated a travel ban.
Yeah, to people in South Africa, right?
Which actually is valid.
But
That's actually valid.
And I'm pretty sure, and Europe and other, it's the same travel ban Trump lifted in the first place. He's doing more travel bans.
He added more countries.
Yeah.
We've talked with lefties about this, and I said, basically, by what metric do you compare Trump's job on the coronavirus? If we were looking at the media, Trump did a tremendous job because they were saying millions would die, and then hundreds of thousands have died. And that's why conservatives, Republicans, when polled, were like, we're okay with where things are, because they were told it was going to be 90% higher.
1 to 2 million was the original
not 90%
number.
higher. I'm sorry, like 10 times higher. And then it was 1 to 2 million, and then it ended up being like 100 to 200,000, and people were like, wow, we were warned that it was going to be worse. Trump must have done a good job. But the left just said, no, all these people are dead. It's the worst possible job. Ignore that. No matter what he did, it was wrong. And then people believe it. That's just it. And Trump's problem is he did have a direct line to the people with Twitter, but boy, did he not know how to use it.
Huh.
Look, he tweeted, and it's something we've not seen other people do, but he didn't do it as effectively as he could or should have. Mm-hmm. And so the message was,
Jack Dorsey, can I send this message? Jack Dorsey, can I send this message?
No,
Jack
he was
Dorsey,
saying,
can I send this
instead
message?
of
every time you tweet, you're asking Jack Dorsey if you're allowed to send that message.
The issue is that Trump would attack people, and he would get caught into the flame war. And
That's always been his problem.
Right. A lot of people liked it, but he had an opportunity to bypass the press, and they hated him for it. And he did many times, but too often it was just inflammatory, internet flame war.
I was listening to some guy last night that worked with him a lot and said that he was a raging Adderall addict in the 80s and 90s, like just a party boy going out.
Did they have Adderall in the 80s and 90s?
Speed, different kinds of, it's a methamphetamine.
Yeah,
I think.
I don't know about.
We don't know.
Yeah, but today, like on
he
the
supposedly
Apprentice.
he supposedly doesn't even take alcohol.
Yeah,
But-
according to him, he never doesn't touch drugs at all.
Yeah.
But they had to remove the Diet Coke button from the White House.
I wouldn't want to die.
He had a
Coke
button.
aspartame-filled
Gross.
substance.
I
you know what
know. I know people who have
I'd
been
change
on
it
the
to
plane with
iced
him.
coffee.
I know people who have been on the plane with him covering stories and stuff. And they tell me the dude doesn't do drugs, he doesn't drink, and he only eats McDonald's.
I never saw him do drugs,
And
so
Diet
he
Cokes.
doesn't ever do them. What a moronic statement.
That journalists who've actually
Yeah.
been with him.
I
and
spent some
tracked
time
him-
with him, and he didn't do it, so he never does it. Like, what the hell?
Well, when journalists are flying around with him and following him on his
That's
campaign
cool.
tours,
It's
and they
anecdotal, but it's
never
cool.
see him
But it's-
drink or do
it's
drugs.
the people that work with
and
him that said he was a raging Adderall
But
addict. It's
hold
like,
on,
what-
hold on.
that's
What people?
extreme.
But hold on.
Oh, I'll pull up the guy's name real quick.
And just look up that story and look up that thing. But the media was hypercritical if the man had toilet paper on his shoe. If he had 2 scoops of ice cream, they had a crap storm about that. So if he had a drug problem, I think they would have found out about it and talked about it. And I definitely agree
Yeah.
with your point here, Tim. He could have spent his time better because, dunking on Rosie O'Donnell maybe is not the priority and shouldn't be the priority when it comes to the issues that this country's facing. So,
Well, and most leaders, most politicians actually got an approval bounce except for Trump. Every governor,
Right.
everyone except for Trump. And I think there's two reasons for that. One, I think you're right, is the media, but two is how he handled it and how he did shoot himself in the foot on several occasions with stuff he said or feuds he started. That's always been part of his problem.
It's he started his campaign with being this character and being very negative on a bunch of different things, playing to the internet. And he's been that way for a long time. Even before he was running, he was tweeting things about Obama and Rosie O'Donnell. And so what happens is he enters office with this perception that the media used and exploited to make money. And there was very little he could do because people already hated him. That was it.
The guy's name's Noel Kassler. He worked in the entertainment industry in like the 90s, 2000s, running for shows. But I think when Trump
So what
says,
did he do with Trump?
he worked on The Apprentice. He'd be the guy that worked between the producer and the actors so that the producers didn't have to tell the actors, like, hey, what time are you going to be here? What do you need? He would do all that stuff for the production companies. So they'd hire him and bring him into different shows. He worked with like Michael Jackson, Madonna, and Trump. And I think when Trump says, I don't do drugs, he's saying, I don't do illegal drugs. And
Could
he
be.
got an Adderall prescription.
Could be, we don't know. But another thing to kind of really think about here is that when he first even became president 4 years ago, we were literally arguing about crowd sizes. Donald Trump was saying he had the biggest crowd, way bigger than Barack Obama, and at that point I knew there was an ego problem, and when someone has an ego problem, they could be very easily manipulated, and that's when I knew this is not going to be the 4 years that he promises it's going to be, because a lot of people could just pull a couple strings here and there, especially with someone who
look
is
at the
very
bump stock ban.
egotistical. Yep, and they could easily get their way with someone who's so full of themselves.
The bump stock ban was a perfect example of how Democrats could have manipulated Trump way better if they wanted to.
If they just sucked up to him, they could have got him. He does not have, except for a few issues, rooted core values. So he's very subject to influence by, who the last person that talked to, who kissed up to him the most. So that was always the problem. That's how people like John Bolton got in that administration.
Noel was saying that he also got this like nasoplasty surgery to get this part of his nose reconstructed from all the cocaine he did that blew out the cartilage in his nose. Like he was a party boy in his early days. Just women, drugs.
He was seen with Jeffrey Epstein partying it up.
Him and Bill.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton.
What? Yeah.
It's so funny that he comes out and he's like, I never touched drugs. And he acts with this like piety. And he's like, but dude, that guy was crazy.
I don't know. It's hard to really determine that, especially from one person. I would understand if there was a number of people and maybe if there was some evidence, but until there's evidence or actually other people corroborating, I don't think it's good to take that kind of
And I don't
information
even
as
dog
face
on
value.
drugs. I'm all about
I
drugs.
also don't care.
I don't care.
The reason,
but don't lie about it.
The reason I don't buy it is because when you Google search the story, it's a bunch of people speculating that Trump was sniffling. And they're like, I watched a video where Trump had the sniffles. That proves he's on drugs. There's a bunch of articles speculating. And then what I know about Trump, because I've known journalists who have been on his beat, is that he's a complete germaphobe. He won't touch people. He doesn't like shaking people's hands. He's always doing sanitizer. And he only eats at fast food restaurants because he's scared about getting something foreign in his food. And he believes that McDonald's has universal standards. So if he orders pre-made food, he's safe. So like you walk in McDonald's, say, give me that burger right there. They couldn't have put something in it and he can't get sick from it. It's a combination of, I guess, a fear of poisonings and also a fear that smaller restaurants have, you don't know if they're going to be following some specific code for cleanliness. So he only eats fast food. That's why there's a photo of him on the plane with fast food. And so the people the journalists I know who have been on the plane with him and followed his entire campaign tour for both terms have said basically the dude is like straight edge. Maybe he's not.
I believe that with alcohol, because at the very least about alcohol, because with alcohol, I believe it was his brother that died and was an alcoholic. And from what I've heard, that's very genuine that he doesn't drink.
He has no signs of alcoholism at all.
Yeah.
I
But
don't
it's not
see
even.
any.
It's like, it's not even a positive story to say he's a germaphobe who only eats McDonald's. It's just weird that I see all these stories popping up trying to claim that he does drugs because they saw him sniffling or because people have accused him of doing it. There was one story where they claimed he was getting prescribed some kind of medication to help him like be active and alert and awake.
Adderall?
I don't think it was Adderall, but there was a story about it. And that was as close as we got to, is Donald Trump doing drugs?
But
Other
so
than that, I don't
you
know.
mentioned McDonald's. The best moment of his presidency was when he had the whole Chick-fil-A. When I forget the exact circumstances, but there was some guest coming to the White House and there was some issue with the kitchen or with the food they were going to prepare, so he got full Chick-fil-A spread for them all.
Chick-fil-A's good, man. Let's read Super Chats, everybody.
Yes.
If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the notification bell, and go to timcast.com. Become a member. We're going to have some more bonus segments coming up, and we're actually be doing a lot more bonus segments that are more probably go out to the gun range and stuff like that. Maybe some kind of behind-the-scenes stuff. With that being said, let's read. Karma and Kerosene says, they have dropped a more anti-leftist pop culture yesterday. Our new single, Compromised, about Joe Biden. Come check it out after the stream. Sounds cool. Will do. Yeah, so that's one of the things that I've talked about. Conservatives and people on the right spend too much time complaining about things. And so there's really got to be an effort to produce things. You know, like do stuff. Play music, play video games.
Did
make
you hear
videos.
about the Daily Wire launching their own movie?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
I like that.
Yep.
I'm going to be watching it, and actually I'm going to be
I
interviewing
heard it's pretty good.
for the producer for my podcast, right? But they actually are going into the cultural arena, and I respect that because the culture is where the battles are originally won, and then politics is downstream.
Yep. And it's
So-
like Sun Tzu said, you have to win the war before you fight it.
Right.
Something like, well, that's a paraphrasing because the actual quote's probably more profound than that, but you get the idea. All right, we got East F says, Crowder's having twins, having heart complications, and launching a lawsuit. He posted an update today, coming back February 1st. I did watch his video.
Heart
Glad
problems?
to hear it.
What
Yeah.
lawsuit?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh no.
He seems young though.
He is.
Yeah, he's I think he's younger than I am.
I think
Wow.
he's stressed.
I think you guys are the
Steve,
same age.
chill, brother.
That's
you got it.
crazy.
Yeah, you know, it happens. I think he said it was genetic issue. So I hope he's doing all right. I hope he'll be okay. Come back when you feel all right, buddy.
Twins is a nice move.
Yeah, there you go. Soft Shell Crab says, I wanted to ask who's y'all's favorite commander to play, also mono red for the win.
Urza.
I-
Yeah,
but
look
we-
at Tim.
we-
Did you see Tim's face when I said that?
We basically banned Urza. Oh. Mono red is for the win. It wins so often. But who do I like playing the most now? Probably, I don't know.
Kaikar?
Narset.
Oh, Nars, that's pretty fun.
Yeah, because it's
Kaikar's-
just crazy. Yeah, he's cool. Yeah.
I wish you guys played cards.
Most people are
You
like,
play
I have no
Magic?
idea what you're talking about.
I have no idea.
Magic
What?
the Gathering?
No.
Oh, it's awesome.
Sorry.
It's a card game.
Oh,
All right,
I
let's
know
see.
what it is.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just don't play.
Gage Kimper says, hey, Tim and Ian, check out the new Treasury Secretary on her stance on crypto. Article on Business Insider from January 20th. Push for new harsh regulations coming of cryptocurrency. Yep, I've seen that. We'll see, though. When you got massive special interests and all these big corporations supporting it and investing in it, they're not going to let Yellen come after their investments.
Well, she actually walked it back a little bit too. So she put out a statement because Bitcoin dropped after she said that, of course. But she put out a statement later that was kind of saying, actually not so bad. So
She's just creating a buying opportunity. And
Yep.
what did you
Yep.
expect from the former
someone
head of the
checked her
Fed?
bank account.
Yeah.
She let it go down, bought a ton.
I said I was going to buy the dip, and people were like, you're crazy. It's going to bottom out, then buy, and then it went right back up.
Yeah. The dollar is the ultimate crap coin. Family-friendly show.
All right, let's see what we got here. Inside of the Ages says all content be tagged and a protocol could be built to insert the original video into your video edits via timestamp. Calling the OG file saves space and gives watch time to both. Chain of credit. Interesting. We have to build. It's about like building a video protocol, I guess, or blockchain or something. I don't know.
Figure out the site.
Opulent Gaming says, I'm trying very hard not to laugh at all the people who voted for Biden and are now regretting their vote. Also, people want to say there wasn't any voter fraud, but a Limestone County woman was arrested for 134 felony counts of it and the Veritas lady. That's the problem I have with the fraud people. They try and make it so that any claim of voter fraud is a grand conspiracy when there's literally Bill Barr on record saying we found a bunch of fraud, just not enough to change the election. And then you have the Veritas lady getting arrested, Paxton putting out the statement, the AG, like, we've arrested this lady. Yeah, it happens, you know. But
That's the two sides talking past each other on that one. It's
Right.
like one side won't acknowledge any fraud happened, and the other claims that it
More.
could have swung the whole election. When we don't.
Rand Paul is smart about it. He brings up the correct argument, I believe, was state legislatures having the laws changed without their approval. So there was election law changes by AGs, by governors. By the Constitution, any election laws have to go through the legislature. That's the real argument about what's concerning with this past election. But that never, got adjudicated.
We didn't talk about it, but Dominion launched a lawsuit against Giuliani for $1.3 billion.
That sounds like a fake lawsuit.
Like they're just throwing their weight around because they have money.
It's the stupidest thing in the world when a company's like, I'm going to sue you for $1 billion.
So
it's
libel or something.
So the Giuliani one sounds like a stretch, but I actually think there might be something to the way they sued Newsmax and some of these other outlets, because those outlets immediately ran massive retractions.
Yep.
There's this website, American Thinker. It's like a conservative website. They ran the craziest retraction I've ever seen, apologizing to Dominion, saying it had no basis in fact, because Dominion told them, we won't sue you if you do this. So they must be scared of something.
Well, I think a lot of people were pushing conspiracy theories, and you know what, man, the Q stuff is just really sad. Now they're claiming, it never ends. No matter how often they're wrong, it's become pseudo-religious almost.
Right.
Nightmarishly so. Like, I see gold fringes on the flag, and March 4th is the real inauguration. I was like, just stop, man.
Why do people fall for those things? Why is it that there are good people I know whose parents believe in Q?
I think it's because people want to feel like they do have control over their lives to some degree. And you have two choices. Either we have no control in these elections and the people we want lose, or it's a grand conspiracy against you, and it's easier to believe that you're fighting this grand fight against the evil cabal. At least when you're involved in this grand fight with Team Q,
you're not helpless, I guess.
Right. You're not helpless. When the alternative is the system is too big, it's out of control, and the guy you didn't want to win, won. So people just keep believing it, no matter how much they're wrong. Without naming anybody, I've seen people on Facebook saying, it was on the 5th, I think. Trump's going to make the announcement today, posting links and showing photos and showing Q screenshots. And then they were like, today's the day Trump's going to make the announcement, executive order, blah, blah, blah. Nothing happened. Then they were like, I got it wrong. It was actually tomorrow. It's going to happen just before the vote announcement. Nothing happened. Well, I don't know, because I don't know what the Q people, what Q's doing. So, and I'm like,
it's like
dude,
the
just
mind
stop,
calendar thing.
Yeah, it is.
Just stop. It's not happening. It's never happened. Mueller wasn't working for Trump. They believe that. You know that, right? They were saying during the Mueller investigation that Mueller was secretly working for Trump.
Yeah.
It's almost like, look, man, they get mad at me because, because they want to believe it. They want to believe it's just not true.
Maybe there's some threads of truth to Q. Maybe.
No,
I don't know.
No, I'll tell you what it is.
But it seems like bull for the most part.
Take a connect the dots. You ever do connect the dots?
Yes.
It's a sailboat. And they have a picture. And you can see the outline with all the dots, a sailboat, but they use the dots to draw a picture of a dolphin. And they're like, it's a dolphin. You're like, no, you ignored all of this. You connected these dots that shouldn't be connected.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so the dots are real. They're just not connecting.
They're connecting the wrong ones. And that's what you get from a lot of conspiracy theorists. They'll see a pattern, but then make the incorrect assessments over what the connections are. Whereas everyone is going 1, 2, 3, 4, like, oh, sailboat. They're going like 7, 13, 5, 6, 0, and they're getting a weird image.
No
critical
critical thinking skills on the left, on the right, on the conspiracy theorists. We just need to think. If you really want to ban fake news, the best way to do it is to teach people how to think independently and to look at evidence and make up their own minds and decisions. I mean, if we really cared about society, we would be doing that.
What do you think about Q, Luke?
Like, what is there to think about? It's riddles. I mean, I've been calling it out. It's been calling it out for years as ridiculousness. And I was saying, I need to see evidence. I need to see proof. They're saying a lot of vague language. It doesn't really add up to anything. And I got attacked. I got ridiculed for it. I knew YouTube curators that had their videos taken down that ridiculed it. So I believe
crazy. But how crazy is it that Marjorie Taylor Greene, she openly believes it, and she got elected to Congress?
Yeah.
This isn't going away. Yep. That's the problem with it, is I've tried to explain why it's not true. I've tried to share fact checks, but there's something impenetrable here, and I haven't figured it out yet why it is that this is not going away when people are presented with the facts that do not add up to this conspiracy theory.
Because they'll have a mental breakdown. Because there is a characteristic of the human mind that when our brains solidify around an idea, and this happens to the left, happens to the right, happens to everybody. And what our brains are basically saying is, this is true and correct, and we're surviving because of it, right? So you grow up, there are certain behaviors you pick up, there are certain things you believe, and you've succeeded to a certain point where your brain says, this is how I succeeded and survived. if someone can disprove those things, it puts your life at risk, essentially.
Right.
And so then people have mental breakdowns when they're confronted with hard evidence that disproves their worldviews.
It's kind of like an extreme version of the fact that somebody who's like made their life on a certain belief and made their life's work can't have their mind changed because they have so much invested in it and they've built their sense of self around it. It's like an extreme version of that.
Let's read some more Super Chats. Mark Shapcott says, Tim, you say defend, don't act. But how did that work for Alexander Hamilton? He tried to do the noble thing and died. We got Aaron Burr. He could have just said, I'm not going to duel you. I mean, his dueling was a big thing back then, I guess. But yeah, he, I guess the story is Alexander Hamilton purposefully missed because he didn't think it was going to be a legit duel, and he got hit in the chest or whatever, and then there you go, he died. But that's like, come on, man, that's like, what, 200 years ago, 100 and something years ago?
Also, the musical soundtrack slaps.
Yeah.
So I hear.
Let's see. Ponyboy says, I lean right, Tim, but I respect you for not succumbing to the bias of your fan base and sticking to your research. With all the negativity, maybe a good idea would be to focus on one wholesome story a week or something.
I like
Well, what we're going to be doing more and more of is just, you know, we've got some people we want to have come on the show who focus on near-death experiences and life after death and stuff like that. Like real research. Not like some, you know, hippie shaman guy who thinks he's an alien.
The one from the Capitol.
Not him, right. we actually have people who are like university professors who have done research on people who have had, you know, near-death experiences, and there's like weird commonalities and patterns. That's the fun stuff to talk about. So we're definitely planning some shows. Maybe Fridays will be the like welcome to the weekend. We're just gonna kind of chill out and enter the weekend with a smile on our faces and talk about Bigfoot or something. You know.
You know, there's a congressman who wrote a whole book about Bigfoot, or former congressman now, Denver Riggleman. He wrote a whole book about Bigfoot erotica.
That's
What?
very weird.
That's amazing.
Before or after he was in office?
So what happened, and I'm gonna butcher this because I don't know the details, but like his campaign opponent made some Oppo research claiming that he liked Bigfoot erotica, and he didn't. But then he wrote a whole book about conspiracy theories and how there are people out there who believe in Bigfoot for real, and who have it's become kind of a sexual cult, I guess, around Bigfoot.
All right.
And so this congressman who just left office published a whole book about it.
Do they go to Burning Man?
I don't know.
All right. Let's read some more. Intellectual Millennial says, growing up, I saw the left hate corporations. And yet with this fight is the Dems supporting corporations. Side note, I truly believe Trump's stirring brought up multiple trafficking issues connected with those in government. Where's Maxwell? I don't know what that is. And the Maxwell stuff and the Epstein stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff we know, but I think we're only scratching the surface. I think it's you know, a lot of people want to. I'll just put it this way: we probably know 1 out of 100 things about what's actually going on. And you think about what Epstein's been accused of. I think there's way more going on.
Human
than
trafficking.
But I'm just saying way more than that. There's probably shady business. There's probably drug dealing. There's probably weapons trafficking. It's probably all the craziest stuff you can think of.
But,
and
yeah, but we don't know because all the secrets went away with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yep.
You know, the Russian dissident that just went back put out a public statement. I am not suicidal, because he knew the Russian government was about to arrest him.
Yep.
I like him.
Oh, the guy Navalny?
Yes,
Yeah.
he put out a statement as soon as the Russians were arresting him. Putin's people were arresting him, saying, I'm not suicidal.
Wait, they just arrested him again?
As soon as he went back, they arrested him.
Yeah.
He's been in jail.
That's where all the protests came from this weekend.
Yeah.
We have a very important one from Jacob Williams. He says, Tim and Cast, the 50 caliber or Medusa is made by Browning. The laser tech for listening to conversations has been around since the USSR. If you want to see insane things satellites are capable of, look into Maxar, as well as a book called Deep Black. Ooh. Interesting. It'd be fun to have someone talk about that on the show too, like ancient, like Cold War technology and crazy spy stuff. That'd be a lot of fun. What were the Soviets doing? Turk Longwell says, wait a second, did Luke just say that he wants to buy a 50 cal machine gun? Y'all getting serious down there, huh? Great guess too. Rock on.
Not a machine gun, just a single fire. You know, could be semi-auto, could be even bolt.
I would have 50
But
cal.
Which states allow a machine gun, like a legit?
Well, machine guns are banned in some states, but most importantly, they're only available for the rich. If you're rich, you could have one, and you just have to fill, I think, an NFA license to get one.
All right, here we go. Judo Eagle says, I feel bad for the NSA guy assigned to Ian.
He loves his life.
He's sitting there and he's watching Ian just like on his computer.
He's
Playing
gaming
video games.
again?
No. He talks to his
playing
friends
King's
and he's
Bounty?
like, dude, did you know like this DMT stuff? What are you talking about? I'm just listening to Ian, man. This is crazy stuff. And now he's like,
I need
doing,
mushrooms for this.
the NSA guy's doing DMT.
Yeah. Most undoubtedly.
Heck yeah.
All right, let's see. I Am Insanity says, I had a news channel in 2015 with 100K subs. Quit because of death threats. Tried again in 2019, but quit when a guy tried to break into my house at 2 a.m. to kill me. Luckily live in Texas and have a lot of guns. Whoa, that's crazy. Polaris589 says, Brad Polumbo doesn't like privately owned tanks. Fake, phony libertarian.
You don't like
Is that
privately
true?
owned tanks? How dare you?
So my whole thing was I criticized the Libertarian Party presidential nominee for saying that private citizens should be able to own tanks because I basically said it's just totally out of touch. It's just like, and I think you have to draw, so I'm very pro-gun, but I think you have to draw the line somewhere, right? Like I don't believe private nuke ownership. And I
Why
think
not?
because that's crazy. You think do you trust Bill Gates with a nuke?
I don't think Bill Gates would nuke anybody. I don't know what he would want to nuke for, but I can tell you that at the time the Second Amendment was created, corsairs and privateers were all the rage. So when the founding fathers said the right to bear arms, they legit knew that people had artillery and they knew that people actually had their own warships.
I think that we should have as few people with nukes as possible. That's my hot take.
We're talking about tanks here. Don't you dare filibuster here.
so-
Okay,
so-
mister. What's wrong with an individual having his own personal
So
tank?
the
Okay?
specific,
If I want to have a tank
the
on my property
specific
to drive
question,
around.
the specific question was not whether you should have a tank, but whether you should be able to have a tank with intact artillery. If you just want to have a tank to drive around, I'm okay with that. The artillery system, no, sorry.
I don't know why.
Because I just think it's dangerous. I think there's got to be a line somewhere.
Forks
You know-
are dangerous because they make people fat.
Someone could punch you in the face.
Right.
Has anyone ever walked up to you and punched you in the face?
I've been slapped.
So, like, I was thinking about this when we were at the range. You have all these people all over the place with guns and they're shooting. And I was just thinking, like, at any point, someone could, shoot somebody else. But it's not going to happen because people don't want to hurt each other. Now, sometimes people do, like to do with the killdozer. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I think ultimately the challenge is, you're probably right in don't give people, full intact artillery shells. But the dude built the killdozer and no one could stop him. The killdozer guy only got stopped because he fell into a basement.
Yep.
But if someone really wanted to do something, they'll do it. I guess nowadays the CIA is spying on everybody, so if you tried to build a killdozer, they'd come for you, And
I also think it's just kind of funny watching libertarians freak out when I say I don't like tanks. Just libertarians on Twitter, and I count myself among libertarians, but it's funny watching them.
It
melt
is
down.
interesting. Like, look at the East India Trading Company. There's a massive corporation with warships all over the place. And they just did their thing. And it was, like, pretty brutal and authoritarian in a lot of ways, Mm-hmm. It's tough. I think the issue is, at a certain point, nuclear weapons are probably a line, I think, for everybody. You don't want Bill Gates with a nuke. I don't think he would fire it, but I don't want any
I don't want Russian billionaires with a nuke.
I barely want any governments to have nukes, you know what I mean?
I would rather none of them did.
Well, I mean, Putin has nukes, and those are his.
But those, as few people, I actually am really, this is maybe one of my nerd areas. I'm really worried about nuclear war. You know that during the Cold War, there was actually a situation where they almost launched all the nukes.
Yeah, we talked
from the
about
Soviet
it.
Union.
We talked about it. And then
talked
the
about it on
officer.
Friday.
Yeah, we talked about it Friday.
Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
Yeah. They have like nuclear submarines all along the coasts. I mean,
Yes.
we don't know about how many nuclear subs are in the world right
So
now.
all I'm saying is we need as little more of that as possible.
I think you're right about long range artillery.
First,
too.
get rid of the government's nuclear weapons. Then we could talk about tanks.
So I would love that. The problem is, like, I wish we actually could get rid of all the governments, but you could never, like nuclear disarmament as a strategy is like, oh, well, only the good guys are going to go along with it.
Yeah.
Like,
So just to clarify, you don't want to take away people's tanks. You want to take away people's artillery.
yes.
All right, we got a super chat here from Wyoming Trailer Trash. He says, Aloha, Tim, would you please ask Lydia to DM Styx Hexenhammer 666 and Razor Fist on Twitter and extend an invitation for your show while Styx is back in the States?
Sticks.
He's back in the
Styx has
States?
a standing invitation to join us on the show.
Of course, Styx is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome and have him here.
Cody Ite says, try some 3.5-inch 12-gauge slugs. You'll have fun then. Oh, yeah. Eric Britt says, try firing a 10-gauge sometime. We're talking now about the journalist who panicked over the recoil on a 5.5. We're assuming it's a 5.56. I imagine it would be.
It looks like a 5.56
Yeah.
from the photos that I'm seeing there.
It's just not even that much,
Yeah.
It's just,
Slugs are fun.
yeah, slugs are fun. Ricky Bobby says, ever since I got into crypto about 10 months ago, I get ads on YouTube for black girl stocks. Could you imagine if I tried making white boy stocks? The double standard is absolutely insane. P.S. Polkadot to the moon. Okay.
Polkadot's incredible. It's not a security, so you can't get it in the United States.
Oh, really?
Yeah, technically.
ID says, hey, Tim, I recommend you check out a song called Knives, Guns, and Bed by Rare Americans. The song is a representation of China and America fighting. Interesting. Timothy Peterson says, on the AR-15 PTSD tip, When we first went to range in basic training, our drill sergeant put an M16 against his crotch and fired off 3 rounds to demonstrate low recoil. Love it when MSM refers to 223-556 as high power. No, seriously. We have a 308, which was fun at the range.
Yep.
And it's just like, what is this guy doing? He's never, like, I'm sorry, I got to bring it back to how funny it is to imagine, like, a teenager going turkey hunting with his family, and that's more recoil than this guy had, and he can't handle that? People, seriously. Jeez. Oh, okay, so Matthew Doherty says Steven Crowder announced today that he will be involved in a lawsuit against big tech, and he plans to join in or do something similar. Me, no, but I did see that Jack Posobiec tweeted something about Amazon and mail-in voting, and Twitter labeled it as disputed. And I think that might be grounds for a defamation suit against Twitter because Twitter made the statement. So if you tweet something about, so Amazon recently said, we don't want mail-in votes, we want in-person secure. And then he tweeted saying, like, they're saying mail-in voting is, insecure. Twitter put an auto flag on it saying this claim about voter fraud is disputed, blah, blah, blah. But it's not disputed. Everyone agrees. The media agrees. Jeff Bezos did say this. That's a false statement of fact.
So what would the claim be against Twitter?
Twitter made the statement. By putting a statement on Jack Posobiec's tweet, Twitter publicly stated Jack Posobiec is wrong.
But he's a public figure, so he has a really high defamation standard.
Which would be knowing that what he said was true and correct and still putting the flag there anyway, which is the challenge, because if it was done by an algorithm...
That's what I was going to say. Is like, right. You have to prove intent. It's like I got sued by Roy Moore, right, for an article I wrote criticizing him. Yeah, fun fact about me. But like one article I wrote was not false at all. But even if it was, he would have had to prove that I knew it was false and published it anyway. So the public figure standard is so high, it's like barely anyone can ever reach it.
Matthew Reckamp says, in several videos, Tim seemingly justified the cancellation of the XL pipeline by mentioning the 29 leaks. From my view, there are questions that need to be answered. How severe were the leaks? How many is that compared to other transportation methods? Is it worth the oil being sent likely to China? I think it's unfair to say I seemingly justified the cancellation. In my latest video, I said I have no strong opinions one way or the other. I understand the argument that it actually creates less emissions transporting the oil by pipeline than by freight or by trucks. And I don't know the amount of spills we've got from freight or from trucks, so it's hard to know who's right or wrong on the issue. The point I was making is that these unions endorsed, the pipefitters union endorsed Biden, and Politico was like, even though he says he's going to ban Keystone, they did it anyway. And then when he bans Keystone, they're like, oh no, oh geez, how could he do this? And I'm like, you knew he was going to do it. You're not really outraged. You're pretending because you're manipulating your members.
Did he ban fracking?
He put a moratorium on it.
Okay.
On federal land. So what conservatives are doing now is they're saying, aha, see, he banned fracking. And they're missing the last part of that on federal land for 60 days. And the left is saying he didn't ban fracking, ignoring that he did actually ban some fracking. So it's like you said before, talking past each other.
Right. Moral of the story, everyone's wrong.
Yes, everyone's wrong.
Yes.
I mean, it's fair to say he banned some fracking, but you got to put the some in there. Otherwise, people think he just outright banned fracking.
And he temporarily banned it.
Right, 60 days. And, we'll see how things play out. But I think he's going to do it. Or it's fair to say that he was lying to all those people who asked him when he was like, oh, we're going to get rid of it. Trust me. Lies.
But he also, the thing is, he and Kamala both said both things on different occasions on the campaign trail.
Exactly.
Sometimes he said, yes, we will ban it. Sometimes he said, we'll just ban it on federal lands or some other thing.
And also, if America becomes less energy independent, we have more of an excuse to go into the Middle East. Just saying.
And Joe Biden doesn't need much of an excuse to do that.
Yep.
Orangefield 2 says, Lydia, can we book someone to actually disagree with you guys? Have an appropriate, polite debate? It seems like an echo chamber and no one learns anything. Love your show, though. Well, we invite many leftists, but they're scared of COVID. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean, literally. We've invited many leftists, high-profile ones, and they're like, I'll do your show. And then it's like, we'll buy your ticket. We'll get – whoa. In person? Yes, the show is in person. We don't have any setup, and I don't intend to do Skype or digital stuff. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. It's everyone sits there and then yells at each other while their chats go off and they argue back. Nah. Having someone in here in person is how you do it. And unfortunately, it is a fact. Gallup has the polls. The left is terrified of COVID. They won't travel. There are even some rational and legit leftists I really like that say the same thing. They're scared of COVID. Conservatives don't seem to care at all. Look at this guy sitting there with no mask on.
No, I mean...
We're all socially distanced, actually, which is interesting.
We are, more or less. But I guess the thing is, I also think it's also hard to get leftists to come on your podcast, period. At least that's been my experience, is I've reached out to a bunch of people, and they don't really seem. I would go on MSNBC. I'd go on Rachel Maddow. I'd be like, anytime. I don't know that a lot of leftists really are willing to engage.
I've had there's one leftist I really like, and he said to me, like, I really appreciate the invite. To be honest, there's no upside for me coming on your show. And I'm like, you're right.
Big audience, but do they not care about reaching?
They don't think that the people who watch this show is going to benefit them in any way. So why would they bother doing it? Unless they make clips for leftists.
That's just an alien mentality to me, though.
At least it was honest.
If you're doing this kind of thing, you should care about reaching people with your message and your voice.
Yep.
And it shouldn't just be reaching people of a certain persuasion, or you're doing it wrong.
I've always been of the ilk of like communication first, get through to the human, and then if we want to talk about ideas and whatever. But as long as you can connect with the human, it doesn't really matter who you're talking to.
All right, we got a super chat here from Crystal Max 76. I love your RV, Luke. Maybe you should invite someone random to wake Tim up. A tired Tim in a beanie. Sounds like a party. Keep the members only content coming. Thanks, guys.
I like the way you're thinking, and since you did this to me, I now have been granted permission officially by the internet and the rules of Superchats to do the same to you. Yes.
You changed it all when I knocked on your door when you were sleeping. And what did you say to me?
What?
I don't think I can repeat it.
Well, I don't remember.
You changed the rules.
What? I didn't
You were
change the rules.
sleeping and I
Listen.
banged on your door. And then I'm not going to say it. I'll leave it there.
What?
Wait.
What
So
did
do
I
you
say?
sleep in the beanie? Is that
No,
what I got from
of course
this? You
not.
sleep in the beanie.
No, I got these really nice little boxer
Do you
shorts.
ever sleep in the beanie?
Why would I?
Just falling
I
asleep?
feel like it's your thing.
No, I take it off on the couch every day. What do you mean? I'm sitting there watching, what do you watch, Family Guy or whatever, and I'll
Yeah.
play Hearthstone on the tablet. And then
Let me know
Yeah,
who
I
I
guess you
should
do.
surprise Tim with. Feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Lauren Southern. What's she up to? She was on Ruben.
she lives in
wasn't
Australia. Yeah.
She was
Oh,
just
she was on
somebody-
Ruben.
Somebody's show.
She had a new documentary out. That's, All right.
Andrew
let's see.
Yang. That's my other guess.
Hey, Tim, I got $1,000 check for you right here. Universal basic income for you.
That'd be a good one.
Uriel Avila says, Tim, what is your prediction on Godzilla versus King Kong? I don't care for giant monster movies. Never cared. Pacific Ram was like,
King Kong all the way. No,
I
I'm
guess.
biased. I'm
Yeah,
biased.
it's
I guess. Ready to Rumble says, your website needs a comment section under the videos. Us Beanie Boys need to converse. There is a comment section under all of the videos. That's there in all of them. It is. Yeah. So become a member and then you can comment and everyone talks to each other and it's good fun. Brian Bourgeois says, why aren't we talking about solutions? We can complain all day. I know it's hard, but we need to talk about solutions because we do. It's building culture because the culture war is where the war is happening and politics is only after the fact. So we've been talking about doing vlog content. We just put up a video where Alex Jones walks into Luke's RV and wakes him up and there's nothing political in it.
You
It's
are
ju-
fully exploiting me to the fullest
well,
extent
but
here.
it's because we have like 5 videos up.
Yeah.
And it's the one we put up where it's literally just you're watching Alex be like, hey, Luke, I just drove here. How you been? And Luke's like, yeah. And they're like, we're going to go get food. And it's like, it's just not political.
Yeah.
It's just regular. So that's the point is to make fun and silly stuff. And that's part of the solution. It is.
We could talk about flash graphing if you want to talk about solving for the future technology, but we got to have an expert on
On which subject?
graphing, flash graphing, just the formation.
Oh, yeah,
of
for sure.
graphene.
I'd love to get an expert on like directed energy weapons too. All right, let's see where we're at. We got too many super chats coming in. This is crazy. Unreasonably Angry says fully functional A10s are a God-given right. What's an A10?
I think that's a shotgun that is only for military use. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. Let me look that up.
Tyler Wood says, I just finished Ann Jacobson's Untold History of Area 51. Black projects and funding exploded after Sputnik. As bad as the U.S. was during the Cold War, falling behind technologically would have been way more terrifying to me. Oh, I agree. Yeah. Let's see. Corny says you should get the same guest Jimmy Dore had the other day. Oh, the Boogaloo Boy guy. I mean, maybe. I wouldn't want to just be like, oh, Jimmy Dore interviewed him. I better interview him too, because I think you should watch Jimmy Dore's interview of him.
He's getting a lot of criticism on Twitter because
He
of
was
that.
trending.
Yeah, and
nationwide.
A10 is a fighter jet, by the way.
Oh.
Oh,
So,
yes.
Yeah, so Jimmy interviewed a Boogaloo Boy who was like very pro-left culturally on a bunch of issues and an
He said
anarchist.
like pro-LGBT, pro-BLM, all
Yep.
this stuff.
And then the response from the establishment was, he's lying, he's far right.
What?
It's like, why? Why is he far right? That makes no sense. Antifa wants the same things as him. It's ridiculous. I'm not going to say they're far left. That would be ridiculous too. But, whatever. None of that makes sense. All right, let's see where we are. We'll do a couple more. Garant says Styx is under a concerted attack to smear him as a Nazi. They got Sarah Carter to tar him to put him on now. He's hot and will get views and it will protect the guy. He's good. Well, I'm not super concerned about getting views from having Styx on. I think Styx is all right. I don't know what they're saying about him. As far as I can tell, he's like a fairly libertarian commentator.
Yeah.
I did not realize people were smearing him. I do not agree with those smears. Lucas Kaiser says, have you heard of Bunker Brands? They make T-shirts. Got to love Matt. How many demos out there? We've heard. Like, you reached out to him,
I reached out to them. They didn't respond yet.
Oh, we'll see.
Yeah.
What do we have here? What's this? Stinky Ugly says, I bought a 308 AR-10 and it's brought me joy, second only to my wife. Oh, how nice.
I do call my firearms girlfriends. So
Not surprised by
Kid
this.
Truck says, did you guys know that Gatling guns are legal in many states? Really?
No.
That's
This
the
makes me
crank.
very happy.
Do
That's what I want.
you ever see the video? I think Mythbusters did it. They did a steam Gatling gun where they basically had a steam engine spin really fast. And what it would do is once it lined up with like the barrel, it would sling a bullet out. It was crazy. Something
Wow.
like that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Railguns are cool too, man. All right, let's see. We'll just do a couple more. Jonathan says, interview a critical race theorist so they can educate y'all. Okay.
we should do a sponsored video where we do a behind-the-scenes critical race theory class for everyone here.
Yeah,
I think
mandatory
it'd
diversity training.
be- Yep.
Yeah.
I would love to get some progressive. I don't like the word progressive, what it means, what it's become, but like Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Cory Bush, just somebody that's like so out there on the other end of the spectrum. Just have them in. Let's like
I don't think
chill
they would.
and learn.
We'll be nice, We'll be,
We've
we'll
had
be
we've had
courteous.
this on, and we invite many of them all the time. The problem is when people bully us to try and force their way on the show. But anyway, here we go. The last one, the most important one. Alessio Damonte says, can you add a 480p on the videos on your website? My internet sucks. The good news is, moving forward, all videos, we have a new player which allows all the way down to 144p up to 1080. You can customize so you can stream better. It is a better player. It is easier to load. We are constantly improving the site. But the key to a successful business is to just start doing it. If you try and build this massive castle before anyone's come, you might find that people don't actually want to use it, and then you got to change everything. So you start like we did. We're going to reformat the whole layout of the site. We're going to be adding more kinds of content, better video players. We're just slowly going to be improving it over time. So make sure you go to timcast.com, become a member, because we're going to be producing more and more members-only content. We're probably going to be expanding like crazy as this ramps up because it's taken off, and you guys are awesome. But I want to make a network that is huge. I want to do eventually like a 24-hour live stream where we have like different people hosting different news segments throughout the day and just make it really this big, network of content, a variety of issues, and, skateboarding, music, culture, games, everything. Just take it off. And we're getting there. We are getting there. So go to timcast.com, become a member. We should have a bonus segment up later today. Hopefully, we'll see how things play out. But Brad, you want to mention your social media and anything people should check out?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. And if people want to follow me, it's Brad_Polumbo, Polumbo. And most importantly, podcast is Breaking Boundaries with Brad Polumbo on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Well, today I'm wearing one of my favorite personal shirts that says, I wear crystals, I burn sage, I meditate, I fast, and I still want to slap some people upside the head. And you get that shirt and many others. The new ones that were banned are coming back, and they are all available on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. If you want to find out more about me, check out wearechange.org.
Hey guys, thanks for coming. I'm Ian Crossland. You can follow me on social media. I love you, and I appreciate a lot of what you have said and done for me in the last months. It's been very nice.
Ditto.
And I am Sour Patch Lids. I am that on Twitter and Minds, and then I am Real Sour Patch Lids on Instagram, and oh my gosh, I'm still managing to blank on Gab. Yeah, there we go. All right, there, I finally got all my socials. That's me. You can follow me if you want to.
And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Minds at Timcast. Whether or not I actually post there, anymore is just because it's just those are awful. Minds is cool, and but as far as Instagram goes, Instagram's all right. I like posting there sometimes. Twitter's just Twitter. But you can follow me there. You get it. Special thanks to our sponsor today, Virtual Shield. Once again, you can go to surfinginternetsafe.com, and I'm really grateful they sponsored the show. We'll have some members-only content at timcast.com coming up in a little bit. So thanks for hanging out, and we'll be back live tomorrow at 8 p.m., and we will see you all then.